Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's WPCA meeting. We've posted an agenda online. Are there any proposed changes? Seeing none, we will proceed with the agenda that's been posted. Before we get to the first item, which is the approval of the June 21st regular meeting minutes, I wanted to mention to the public who's here tonight that we will be taking public comment at the end of the meeting. And we would ask that you state your name and address for the record. If anyone online would like to ask a question, I'm going to just pass around a piece of paper if you could write down your name. So at the end of the meeting, how about a show of hands of who would like to speak so I can kind of figure out how much time. All right, so we'll do 2 or 3 minutes. It won't be a Q&A. I've structured the agenda because I have a really good sense of what the public wants to hear, about odor control and the digester. There are a few items of new business that I could not move to the August meeting. So there's a few items that we're going to cover first under new business, and then we'll get into the odor control and the digester and some of the old business, and then we'll open it up for whoever would like to comment. And at the end of that, if the commission feels it's appropriate to provide some commentary to that commentary, we will do that. But we also have another meeting in August, which we welcome everyone to attend. Okay? All right, so the first item, approval of the June 21st regular meeting minutes.
Motion approved.
Motion from Tom, second from Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Matt abstained.
I abstain.
Nancy abstained. Ron Drew?
Yep, I'm good.
Ron Drew's hand goes up. Okay. Excellent. Okay, first item under new business, to the review and approve a permit extension for 131 Beach Road. Who's here from Beach Road?
Good evening. I move for the record, my name is Russell Liskov, Liskov. I'm the attorney for 131 Beach LLC. The principal would have been here, but she just had her fourth baby, and she's kind of laid up a little bit, and the other principal was out of town. This is for a permit, I believe, already has been granted for 131 Beach Road. The reason for the extension is the case is pending in court. We have a Supreme Court argument in November. We have our intention of moving forward. Just can't really move ahead when the matter's on appeal. So we'd ask for the 2-year extension. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Okay. Joe?
Russell, did the project at this point change its scope in any way, shape, or form that you're aware of?
No, it is not. Ours always talk. We would never go up, but only go down. But in size, but it's the same project. It's the same project that was submitted. The same project was approved by you previously.
Okay. So just for the record, the flow data was done, the metering was done in 2019, which obviously was 4 years ago. Since that time, we have at least one new dorm at Fairfield University that will affect the flow going through this pipe. We have another new dorm on the agenda for tonight that will affect this, and I just wanted to put that into the record.
What was the capacity in the previous, the 2019 flow data?
Well, what's interesting, they didn't give us the actual percent, but we know from the Fairfield U application that's in front of us tonight that we're approaching 70%. There was no peaking factor in the 2019 report, and I noticed that the slope that they're using in the 2019 report is much different than the slope that Langen is using on tonight's Fairfield U report. It's a difference of 0.25 versus 0.75. Not being an engineer, I don't know how that would impact the capacity.
Slope of the pipe?
Yes.
It would, in fact.
Yeah, I just don't know the magnitude.
There's only one right answer.
Yeah, it's not going to be positive, right? Yeah.
And the other thing I would point out is the peaking factor in 2019 was not used
Correct.
in that calculation that we use today.
Correct.
So the whole calculation has changed since 2019.
So the manhole in question is kind of in front of Hanson's. Ironically, it's only an 8-inch pipe right there. And replacing an 8-inch pipe in Post Road, you can't even imagine what that would cost. So as we know, we're approaching 70% capacity based on the report that's going to come to us in a few minutes. It would be my recommendation that the applicant comes up with new flow testing with a peaking factor of 4 and a slope factor that our engineering department reviews and gets comfortable with.
Is there anything to be said for conditional approval based on that?
No. Well, we learned our lesson on that one.
We
Yep.
don't do conditional.
Yeah. Yeah. we
Worth the
gave-
question.
Yeah,
Yeah, of
we gave
course.
conditional approval on Umpqua.
Yep.
They came back and sued us. So, lesson learned. Tom?
We don't expire till November, we were coming here early for you guys.
Yeah.
So tell me what again you want us to do, because maybe we'll just do the pipe work now and not have to worry about it. So,
Yeah, the flow monitoring,
flow on.
and the department can work with you on the specifications of that.
And we put the pipe in now, we just.
Put the meter in, it seems to be a rainy season, so.
Yep, okay.
So you said you were coming to us in November.
The approvals don't expire till November, but we came in early.
This was in 2019 we gave the approval,
Yeah, I've been told they don't expire
for
till.
2 years.
I think they only got extended one time for that.
It was extended in 21.
Ah,
Yep.
thank you.
So that's why I'm telling you, I don't think it's
I- My confusion, thank you.
I would never tell you something.
No, I was just confused, that's all.
Okay, so you'll work with the department, and we'll see you before November if you have the flow data.
I'll tell the principals to put in new flow data, and then I'll have them call the department, what they need to do.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion.
Sir.
Motion to not extend the sewer connection permit for 131 Beach Road without updating the sewer flow monitoring data, including 2 2-inch rain events and the theoretical flows from the 2 additional domes built at Fairfield University.
Excellent. Second from Matt, all in favor?
Aye.
John, did you have a question?
I just had, if I heard it right, he said two 2-inch rain events. It's
2, 1.
half
2
inch.
half-inch rain events, I
I
said
just
it
didn't want
wrong.
him to-
Sorry, 2 half-inch rain events, sorry. Apologize.
Okay.
I will have them call in and get all the details of what they need to do, and we'll make a decision whether they want to put it in now or worry about the extension later. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you
Have a
coming in.
good night.
Okay, next item.
Quick question on,
Sure.
so I mean, it doesn't impact Russell, but his flow data, if we have 2-year approvals and we've approved something that hasn't been built yet, that flow is not gonna be showing up in new flow data. So how are we incorporating pending projects in our decision-making?
Yeah. The way we've had in the last few that have come forward, which is to assume that they're going forward.
Right,
So his new flow data would need to incorporate the Fairfield View dorm that's going to flow through there, even though it hasn't
just in the
been
calculations,
In the
not-
calculation.
Okay,
It's theoretical.
okay.
And then if and when 15 Umpqua comes, if we've approved the 2 dorms, they're theoretical, well,
They have to
one's not
carry it
theoretical,
to- Right,
the other one is theoretical, and his, if he's ahead of them,
right.
would fall into the queue. So the 15 Umpqua would have new data that they'd have to
Okay.
address.
Chris?
Are we gonna include his flow data in the Fairfield view, if it's both being impacted?
Sounds
like he's behind here for view
Yeah, he's behind, I think,
But he's already approved.
Yeah, that's true.
no, he's not.
Well,
Yes.
If he gets it in before November, he is.
About November.
Till November.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Jack got him in 2019.
Awesome.
I've got him in 2019.
Yeah.
Right.
So in the Fairfield View, we need to incorporate 40 units on Beach Road. Yeah, it's unusual because Beach Road, Beach Road, you know, actually flows to Post Road and then goes right. You would think conceptually it came down this way.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Things you learn.
Now you know.
Now you know. Okay, next item, to hear, consider, and act on illicit brewing, 111 Black Rock Turnpike, requirements for sewer connection. Hello.
Hey, all right.
Hi.
For the record, Ellis Riley.
Hi, Al.
Where do you want to start?
Let's talk about what's at the location now and conceptually what you're thinking about doing. And then the first step in the process would be whether or not you need flow analysis. And that would really be determined if there's an incremental, increase in flow to the sewer system from what was there now, which is, it's a former fitness facility?
Yeah, it was half Planet Fitness and half, it was a tumble, jungle, gym of sorts.
Yeah.
So similar use, two gyms.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'll speak to our use, and then I'll have Jack, our engineer, come up and, explain his math.
Great.
So we're more of a brew pub than a brewery, whereas, Two Roads is pumping beer out. We're really restaurant, bar, that also happens to make beer.
Okay.
And we can discuss production as well.
Okay.
We can handle that.
Yeah.
So typically, most of our use is gonna be, standard restaurant bar, and then us brewing some beer on the side.
Okay.
And Jack, if you wanna kind of talk about your math, and I can dive into, the brewing sort of stuff that we are considering dumping down the drain.
Okay.
For the record, my name is Jack Phillips. I'm with HP Engineering. We're the mechanical and electrical engineer of record for the new illicit facility. Ellis asked us to take a look at what we envision the new sewer flow rate from the building being. And Alyssa just opened a new facility up in Mansfield, which is very similar in size to the new one here at Fairfield.
Okay.
And we have accurate water meter readings from that new facility. We took, I believe it was 4 months of readings there. And just using that, because that's basically what we're looking at here for the new facility. It's almost a carbon copy of the building that they just put together up in Mansfield. Again, it's predominantly a restaurant with a side brewing facility. And we went through and generated a gallons per day flow rate based on those water meter readings that we had up in Mansfield. And we come out with an average daily flow of 2,590 gallons per day. We also had the meter readings from the former facility that was there presently, or previously, and that flow was like 2,658 gallons per day. So we're increasing the average daily flow from the building compared to what it was before by like 424 gallons a day, which is like about not quite a 14% increase over what it was previously. The other thing that I was thinking about afterwards is Illicit is very concerned about water conservation, and this new facility, we've incorporated all kinds of things to conserve water usage. Namely, on faucets, we have flow restrictors. On the urinals, we have common urinals used to be a gallon per flush. The flushometers that we're putting in this building are 1/8 of a gallon per flush. All of the toilets in the facility, we're using what they call the dual flush technology, which is an infrared light that kind of monitors how many seconds or minutes, whatever, you're on the toilet, and if there's no solids involved, it flushes at a rate of 0.6 gallons per flush. And if there's solids involved, in other words, you sit there longer than a certain given time limit, it's at 1 gallon per flush, both of which are way the hell less than a common flushometer or tank-type toilet that you would have in your house that's more like 1.6 gallons. So we're doing our best to cut down on the water usage. Some of the other things that kind of set the amount of water that's actually coming into the building is any of the food that we're creating. There is quite a load for takeout for food and so forth, as well as the retail of beer and the beer that they're making that's shipped out to other bars that they own in the area. So it's only that much less water that's coming through that water meter into the building that is not ending up in the sewer leaving the building. So the calculations that I did are probably very conservative.
Jack, how are you measuring flows out?
Flows out?
Yeah, is the number that you're giving, are those water flows in?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. They're, directly the water meter readings coming into the building.
And would a certain percent of that go into the beer production?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, which I believe, we estimate at how many percent?
I don't know percentage, we did about, our Manchester location, which again, carbon copy, we served about 16,000 gallons of beer. So we expect 19,000 gallons of beer per year.
Yeah. Okay. Questions, comments from the commission?
So is, out of the 16,000-ish gallons per year, is that all your beer, or is it just the total amount sold?
That would be our beer,
And it's produced on site?
yes.
Okay.
So can you clarify, because we're acting, we're hearing and considering, what's the act specifically?
Right at this juncture, it would be a requirement for flow monitoring. So, you know, if it was an incremental increase, then the consideration is whether or not we require flow monitoring. It's awfully close. So my position would be that we do not need flow monitoring. We also are upgrading just about every major pipe on that side of town. So a measurement of what the flow is today is gonna be remarkably different than a couple of years from now. But to me, it's just an unnecessary added cost of doing business.
I just have a comment.
Sure.
It's interesting, encouraging to hear about, the water conservation piece of things, that you're paying attention to that. And I just think it's an opportunity for the town to be talking about possible, I see Mark Barnhart here, about possible incentives and for attracting businesses that are willing to do that. I just think that's really compelling and, perhaps an opportunity, and even, just from the conservation perspective, I know that group of people would be interested. So I think that, I'm excited to see what happens, and
Well, you know, it's
certainly welcoming a taste test for this group.
Yeah, you know, it can be a relatively costly thing to retrofit.
Mhm.
Say if you took this building and went through and did what we're doing in our new building, but to do it in a new building, it's peanuts in the overall cost of things. It just doesn't make any sense not to do it.
It's great to hear you say that, so, good luck.
Prior to discharging from the beer production, is there any pretreatment of the beer waste?
No, so that's what we can certainly talk about. I'm happy to pass out this little sheet. So in the brew production, most of it's just water going down, you know, you're heating and cooling, and there's some amount of water going down the drain. The only thing with sediment is called trub in the brewing process, and it's essentially beer mixed in with sediment. It's pretty much hops, so it's pretty much tea leaves.
Okay.
But the pH is the same as beer, so it's, you know, around 4.5 pH.
Okay.
And then for dissolved solids, you have, again, same thing as beer, so polyphenols, soluble proteins. And then the sediment itself is that hop particulate. Based on our production, the math breaks out to about 3.8 gallons a day is what we would generate in that sediment.
Okay.
And some towns are cool with dump down the drain, and some say, hey, you gotta truck it out of here.
Okay.
A lot of it's to do with.
It's not like high yeast or any kind of high BOD. That would be my
No,
main concern.
we try to, ideally you're pitching
Right,
your
yeah.
yeast and using it over and over again.
Right,
So ideally, no, ideally there's no yeast. And most of it sits on top anyways, for the
Right.
juice, but,
Okay.
yeah.
What would a town object to, having that, what would be?
I don't know, I know Hartford doesn't like it going down the drain, but I know Stratford doesn't care.
Do you know on what grounds?
No clue.
Okay.
It seems somewhat arbitrary.
Do you have a thought on why they would object? If it's high yeast, maybe that makes sense, but.
I mean, I don't know about microbreweries, but for larger breweries,
Just it's a
there's
lot of-
concern about, just, I think, high-strength waste
Yeah.
getting discharged, but it sounds like you guys don't have that
Under
issue.
4 gallons.
And, yeah, small production, then.
Right.
Yeah, again, everything we make is pretty much consumed there, where it's someone walking out the door with a 4-pack. So it's not like a typical production brewery where they're just cranking out beer.
Yeah,
No,
sounds good.
that's a good question. Is there a motion? Okay.
Yeah, go. I know you have it written down there somewhere.
Well, yeah. I'd like to make a motion to allow, I gotta be careful, illicit brewing located at 111 Black Rock Turnpike to connect to the Fairfield sewer system. The INI fee will be waived as new flows will be offset by the flows from the former Planet Fitness usage. This approval will be for a period of 2 years, at which time, if the applicant is not connected to the sewer system, they will be required to reapply.
Second? Second from Nancy, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, welcome to town, glad you're here.
Yay.
Thank you. Thanks very much, folks.
Okay, moving right along.
Can I
Thank
go
you.
back to just the first item? Is there any action item that we need, given what we talked about before with Fairfield and having to incorporate that, or that's
Yes,
just you?
that's gonna come with Fairfield.
Okay, so it'll be part of the next.
Right.
I just meant to tell Russell. Is there anything we need to retroactively make sure he knows, because he was out of the room?
Oh, I suspect he'll be working with John and hopefully Christine on
Okay.
Yeah, his flows will
Okay.
get
a bit
incorporated.
more robust analysis of the
Yep.
situation than what's been presented
Okay.
thus far. Okay, next item is to hear, consider, and act on Fairfield University's Faber new Residence Hall project. Faber Hall.
I'm with you.
I'm thinking it too.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Hurley, H-U-R-L-E-Y. I'm the Assistant Vice President of Facilities Management. So I think you guys already received a memo from Langen,
Yes.
dated May 24th, 2023, for a 118-bed dorm addition on Bellarmine Road, which is right near Barlow Road, just to orient which side of campus it's on. Within Langen's memo, they do go through and describe as far as the capacity increases of the 8-inch line that's on Post Road, and at the max peak, I believe they're saying it's about a 5% increase.
Yes, in focus, the 1040 Post Road, which is jumping up to about 68%. Is anyone from Langen here?
They are not.
Okay. So if they were, my question would be, is the slope that they come up of 0.25% or 0.75%, does anyone know how that's measured? Is that a actual physical kind of on-site measurement?
I can confirm back to you, but I believe it is because it's based on the ADS when we had them out doing the environmental surveys back in 2021. So they used the reports from the actual survey from 2021.
Okay. Just our former applicant had 0.25, so one, big difference. I would just ask that this be,
Sorry, what's interesting is depending if you're coming from manhole number 50, then it's a 0.25. If you're coming from manhole number 10-73, then it's a 0.75. It's depending on which manhole you're coming from.
yeah, so the 10 or 1040 Post
Yep.
Road is the manhole that I'm focused on.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else cares. Yeah. So that would be, it sounds like that we want to incorporate the Beach Road project of 40 units into that flow and see what that does to the 67.9% number. That would be my comment. I'm sure there's other comments around the table. Joe's making a face.
No, I'm concerned with how, the timing of it.
Well, because
131 is,
But they're gonna
they're
go out,
approved until November.
so we're gonna use their old,
I mean, we have to assume until November comes that they're gonna be, that their flow is, we've already approved it.
I guess out of curiosity, so for the other dorm that's already under construction at Fairfield, so that one is based on the flow test as well from 2021. And although I heard that the 131 Beach Road was approved in 2019, and so it's my understanding that wasn't necessarily based on their previous hypothetical approval, if you will, if that has any weight, any factor on this.
right, that original thing was 2019.
Yeah.
well, it's still gonna be within reason. It's not, 40 units isn't gonna bump it up that much. I just wanna play by the
Yep.
rules.
Okay.
Any other comments?
And let's try, this is separate from the Regis 2 dorm on, was it,
South End, or,
On Lake,
Round Hill.
Round
It's
Hill,
off Round Hill.
Round Hill.
off Round Hill, correct, so that's separate from this.
Okay.
So that
so
one,
This is farther down toward the front of the university?
Yeah.
closer towards Barlow Road,
I know where Barlow
Yep.
Road, okay.
near the Quick Center.
Oh,
So in
okay.
between existing Sabre and the Quick Center.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay. To the west side of campus there?
A little bit, so kind of you're still, how do I want to phrase it? You're still west of Bellarmine Pond, north of existing Sabre, you're not officially into the Quick Center parking lot, just south of the Quick Center parking lot, but you're kind of right on the edge of it.
Okay. West of the pond, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Are there any opportunities for, interim approval if we're able to expedite the calculations? We are just being hopeful to be able to start, construction mid-August. Or at least any,
Yeah, no, we've done this before. with
Okay.
Fairfield, yeah. So, it's really just updating the report with John.
I have to rack my brain, but Beach Road ties into a 10-inch on the south side of the post road. They would tie into an 8-inch on the north side of post road, which both run down to South Benson, and then pick up that 24-inch line down there.
Yeah, they're not affected by the Masonic Temple. The Masonic Temple is affected by them, right?
Initially, they're both dumping into different lines on each side of the post road.
Right.
Masonic here, Fairfield U here, and then down to the 24-inch on South Benson.
Okay.
So I don't know if they directly impact each other until they get to the 24.
but what's on, because they're going right down Round Hill, like they did with the other one. And
Right,
then
and then once it hits the
Reef
post road,
Yeah,
it goes,
what's the manhole there at the corner of Round Hill and Post Road? Is that, because there's an 8-inch pipe that goes,
That's the one.
yes, you would say east, that they just, that Reef Road would tie into. Is that, because I think you might be right, I don't know if they're
Yeah, I don't think that's.
affecting it.
Fairfield U is on this side of the post road, Masonic is on this
I
side.
understand.
North and south, yeah.
And then they go down to South Benson, and they both
Okay.
dump into the 24-inch.
Okay. Great, excellent. So it's a non-issue.
So they're not actually in conflict, then?
Correct.
Okay.
They're in parallel. Wonderful.
wonderful.
Nice to know a guy who knows the pipes.
There you go.
Okay. I suspect Joe may have a motion on this.
I might. I might. Can I make a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Any other, Ron, any comments, questions?
I'm listening, but everything seems to be okay.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay. Fire away.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to allow the Farber North residents of 118 units at Fairfield University campus to connect to the Fairfield sewer system. The fee for this connection, based on the projected usage, will be $192,143. The fee is to be paid upon the issuance of the permit. This approval will be for 1 year, at which time the applicant will be required to reapply if they have not yet connected.
I'll second it.
Second from Nancy, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Great,
Thank you all. I
Yeah,
appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, next item under new business is, discussion on odor control measures and the requisite timeline for completion. And we have Mike Head from Woodard and Curran. Mike, thanks for joining us tonight. I initially had wanted to put the status of the digester repair and timeline before Mike, but that's old business, and one cannot put old business before new business, so I was.
Here we are.
We play by the rules.
New business, odor control. Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
You've covered a lot of ground over the last couple months since we met. Why don't you tell us kind of,
Good. So for the record, my name is,
Michael Head. I'm an engineer with Woodard and Curran here in Connecticut. My last name is spelled H-E-A-D-D. Don't know if you consider it.
Sorry,
lucky or
we're having
unlucky.
trouble hearing him. Could he speak up by chance?
I can.
Sure,
I don't know if there's a mic.
Is there a mic up there?
Thank you so much.
of course.
I think the mic's on.
Good.
All right, there we go. Is that a little better? I hope?
Much better from my end.
Okay,
Yeah, me
great.
too.
Okay, great.
So yeah, I don't know if you consider it lucky or unlucky, but I spent a significant portion of my career focusing on wastewater odor control. So, it's not always a fun day at the office, but it.
Will you just repeat who you are for the?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. Michael Head with Woodard and Curran. So the commission asked me, I know there's some ongoing, odor concerns and issues at the plant. I know the digester has been down, and composting, you compost your sludge at the facility. Composting is notoriously an odorous process, and the digester being down is not helping you. So I know, John, you're in the middle of commissioning that and getting that back started up. That's going to have a significant impact in bringing odors down. But the commission asked that we come in as a third party and see what we can do to come up with some short-term measures to help John offset some odors in the short term, and then develop some potential long-term assistance as well.
Mike, if I can jump in and
Yeah.
just, and say that, so Woodard and Curran was brought in to kind of do a review of the department. And one of the first things that a review being kind of processes, procedures, people, equipment, and so forth. So that was undertaken recently. One of the first things you've done is a review of the equipment.
Yes.
correct? So it was just kind of serendipitous that he was there doing a review of the equipment while we were looking for someone who could help us with odor control. So that's kind of how the dots connected.
That's good. Point of clarification. So like I said, we're looking to come up with some short-term assistance with John to get something that might be able to help offset in the short term until such time that digester is back online fully and you are composting digested sludge. I do realize, or I understand at least, there were some complaints from the facility prior to the digester going offline as well. So one thing that we have been discussing is doing some baseline odor monitoring so that there is some data that we can use moving forward as things progress. So.
Please, fire away.
I think it would be helpful to understand because, as you just pointed out, it's not solely the digester that's responsible or potentially responsible for the odor since it predated the breakdown. Could you describe maybe just historically or in your experience what the causes of that might be?
There are a handful of treatment processes at a wastewater plant that are typically culprits in creating odor at a plant. The headworks facilities, so where the raw wastewater enters the facility, where grit is removed and large particles are screened out. That's always typically an odorous process. When you have the sludge that's removed from the wastewater, the solids, where the solids are processed, solids processing facilities, notoriously stinky. Composting for sure is another. But those are all processes that are currently being ventilated and treated in the on-site odor control system. So one thing we're going to look at is one of those when they were first designed and started up, where they were designed to accommodate the airflow that's being required.
So as part of your assessment, by the end of your reporting period, we'll know if is it fair to say that we will know where other sources of potential odor issues lie?
That's the goal.
Okay. And when do you think you'll have that information?
I don't know the answer to that yet.
Okay.
I know it's a priority, and we're mustering all hands to get after it.
Any sense, because I think at this point the residents are rightly incredibly frustrated, not at your.
Oh, I understand.
So we're just trying to help.
I can hope to have something to report
at next month's meeting, if that's, at least initial thoughts, findings, and ideas.
Report being analytical data,
I don't know that we'd have,
or
a
qualitative.
lot of data, but at least, you know, John's been very willing and helpful in having me down at the plant last week to take a look, and I've got drawings and data, to kind of cull through and crunch some math and just do some initial findings, so.
Is there anything that this commission can do to support your efforts to make it?
I think you are. I
Okay.
think you are.
Great.
Yep, very much so.
Matt, you're the content expert here, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with everything Mike said. I think that the digester being down is the single largest contributor to the increase in odor from pre-May 2022 till now. And what's the time frame for when we're fully back online? Like, ish?
We're on day 28 of a 39-day startup.
Okay.
And
I mean, we should see some
we're seeing good numbers now, so we're on the right track.
We have Wright Pierce lined up to talk to that, that's a.
Right.
Whole business.
Sorry,
And the systems you have in place, they're being run very well. They're, you know, they're being maintained well. You just changed the media out on the bifilters earlier this year, so, you know, it's not for lack of trying, it's happening. So it's just a matter of what can we do to help out.
And are there, are there other tools in your toolbox? I know we're helping and supporting in the way you can, and thank you to you for all you've been doing. Are there other tools that you haven't yet sort of thrown at this that we still can try, that you still can try to offset some of that, or?
Yeah,
Tricks up your sleeve?
potentially, yeah. I'm still trying to get a handle on the SOPs, the processes, how things work together, and John's helping with that.
Can you spell out what SOPs are for people?
Standard operating procedures,
Yep.
sorry.
I
At the
just
plant.
think we're just trying to clarify.
Yeah, and this is one of those areas where you can try to be helpful and tweak something here, but you create a problem down here. So I need to understand everything kind of holistically to make sure
You're not adding.
not contributing to a problem.
Creating
and
big
making
foaming.
everyone's life worse,
Foaming.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've gone down that
So,
road.
Right.
Yep, so that's where I'm at right now. So hoping that the data speaks and I can say, yeah, we can try this or whatever, and have something that I can pull out my sleeve.
Joe.
And Mike, I know you and I, at least through emails, have chatted, and as I keep saying, I'm a data-driven guy.
Yep.
We've talked about equipment we could put in place to measure the
Yep.
smell. So we have a baseline going forward that we could agree to. That is still a potential, and you will
Correct,
pursue that also for us.
absolutely, yep.
Because the only other comment I have on it is, I've been to many treatment plants, they all stink. There's none that don't, so we can minimize, but we can't eliminate.
Matt, for those who don't know you, how many years have you been in this business?
About 20.
Okay.
Happy by 6.
And can I just ask sort of like the elephant in the room question, is there anything else to be done to expedite so that your work gets done? And I know you have a report next August, our next meeting, and I'm not saying that's unreasonable, I'm just saying, is there anything else we can do to help expedite?
I don't think so. John's being super helpful and answering questions, which is where I need to be right now, so,
Okay. And
just being very responsive on
No, we don't have any budgetary constraints.
No,
Okay, just want to make sure that's clear.
unless you hit me with $1 million, then maybe.
Okay. Any other comments, questions before we go to the digester?
actually, can I ask you what that was, I mean, I'm not being funny. What does extra help look like? I mean, pretending that it's not $1 million, what does it look like to be able to expedite? You said unless you throw $1 million, what is it?
I can't give you a dollar amount, but.
I'm not saying the money, I'm
What-
saying what's missing to help expedite.
Nothing. We got money in the operating budget to get them going, so.
Yeah, no, let's do this.
It takes time, I mean, Mike just somewhat recently started this
Yeah.
operational evaluation, and specifically with a focus on odor. I mean, we don't want to rush into doing some sort of potential odor mitigation thing that creates the big foaming issue that we
Right.
had recently. So, I mean, we want him to do a holistic effort and make sure that he actually provides good suggestions instead of just suggestions.
And I think it's important to underscore that these things, because of that, it takes time. And so I just think it's good for everyone to hear, though, that, just to say it out loud.
And I think you brought up a good point, Matt. A lot of times, the impression is you're gonna get rid of all of the odor, and that it's not feasible. And you can go a long way in mitigating and getting that down, but there'll never be a zero. The goal would be, obviously, that whatever's left that, you know, pops up, whether it's a process upset or whatever it might be, is contained at the plant, doesn't migrate offsite.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. I'm gonna ask you to just to stick around if you could. And come back in a few minutes, but we're gonna circle back to you under item B of old business for you, Matt, to give us an update. So
Can I ask a
moving on to
question?
old business. At
sorry.
the end of the meeting, we'll handle questions.
Okay,
Just to, yeah, to be fair to everyone. Old business, we have the status of the digester repair and timeline for completion. And Dennis, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Excellent, excellent. Dennis, why don't you introduce yourself, and then why don't you and John Bodie give us an update on the digester repair?
Sure. My name is Dennis Divert. I'm from Wright Pierce Engineers. We are assisting John and the town in repairing the digester cover, which heaved in April-ish of 2022. So the digester's been offline for a year and a half, essentially. The repairs to the concrete are completed. The interior piping repairs all that has been completed. Right around your last meeting. Since then, we've been feeding sludge to the digester and at an incremental rate, following the guidelines that EPA prepared back in the 70s. They really haven't been updated since then. Digestion is an old technology. In any event, we started feeding the digester at about 4,000 gallons or so a day. The town typically feeds about 30,000 gallons a day of sludge to the digester, give or take a few thousand gallons. But as of Wednesday, we've been slowly beginning to produce methane, and more methane, more and more methane as the days went on since day one. As John mentioned, we're on day 28 now. And the mixing system in the tank has been running on the methane gas that's being produced for about a week and a half now. The flare is now lit. You'll see it. I believe you folks were down at the plant today. You'll see the flare is lit now, burning on methane. And as of today, I believe we Wright Pierce has a resident inspector / operator on site assisting John and his staff. They've decided to increase the solids rate to what they would normally do under normal operating conditions. So the digester is just it's cooking. It's almost there. We're pretty close to not unattended operation, but back to operation as it was before the cover heaved. So that's where we stand. I don't know, John, anything for you to add? You're there every day. I am not. So.
No, you stole my thunder.
Sorry.
Everything is, as of right now, everything is going very well. And as anybody will know, things can change tomorrow, but it looks very promising. We're doing well. With the help of Jake from Wright Pierce, we're really knocking it out of the park. The guys are focused, driven. We're doing good.
Let me ask you, what can go wrong right now?
Well, one of the main things that could go wrong is you have an upset in the digester, if you will. So as you're before you start producing methane, the tank becomes very acidic. You have a lot of acid formers, if you will, without getting into too much detail. And we need to keep the pH of the tank up. We don't want the pH to go so low that we sour the tank and then basically have to start over again. So I believe we're still, we've been in that critical stage for a while. I think we're coming out of it, but that can always still happen if a slug of something got in there and the pH went down. We could lose our methane formers and just get set back a few days. But I mean, I'm crossing my fingers here.
Just a couple of numbers to just kind of throw it out there, and you may not know what I'm talking about, but temperature-wise, your target is 95 to 99 degrees. We're at 97. Volatile acids is from 50 to 330 milligrams per liter. Right now, we're at 1,359, but we're dropping. Monday, we were at 1842, so we're going in the right direction. Alkalinity is 2462. You want to be between 1,500 and 5,000. Your VA to alkalinity ratio needs to be 0.1 to 0.2. We are at 0.5. We were at 0.86 on Monday. We're going in the right direction. pH right now is 7.5. The optimum is 6.8 to 7.2.
So that would be more acidic.
Yep, that would be more alkaline, 7.56.
Okay.
Acceptable is 6.6 to 7.6, and the reasoning behind that right now is just we're at that break point where we could start dropping pH rapidly. We're running a little high to keep that buffer in there. We want to be a little high so it drops instead of dropping low and having to make up real quick. So the numbers are going in the right direction.
And, sorry, can you clarify, day 28 of the 39-day cycle, is that referring to this, what you're talking about, numbers going in the right direction?
The 39-day cycle is what Dennis alluded to that was come up in the 70s, and yes, so we are on day 28 of 39, but we are ahead of schedule.
And again, I just want to reiterate, thank you for everything you've been doing and working hard to fix this. And, the residents, it's really frustrating, and I know that for everybody, and that people are feeling hostage to this, but not for lack of you trying to do everything you are, and you are doing it. So ostensibly, in 11 days, you're ahead of schedule. The digester piece of the issue, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just kind of stating it to see if I totally understand. The digester piece of what's contributing to the odor should be taken care of in the 11 days.
Should be.
And then coupled with the assessments of the other machinery that we'll get in August. So hopefully in 11 days, there's like a big change in odor from the odors being, that the digester is contributing.
Correct.
Any other contribution of smell coming from other machines that we're getting assessed?
Compost has sludge that wasn't digested. So once that vacates that building, that should lower as well.
Okay, so then in the August meeting, when we get the report of what else may be contributing, what other machines may be, we'll have a better sense. Is it fair to say that we'll have a better sense of what we could do to sort of fix it going forward, if machines need to be fixed, if we need to bring in other systems, if John needs more support? Is it fair to say that we would have a better understanding of that after August meeting?
Sounds to me as though this is a process you can't put, you can't put 9 women on the task of making a baby in 1 month. That's kind of, throwing more resource at it, it's not gonna, the chemistry takes, it's gonna take as long as it takes.
Right, no, understanding that, so that's why I'm saying the 11 days, and let's say in theory it solves that problem. I'm just trying to figure out from here, like sort of where do we go with this? The problem of the digester piece being solved in 11 days, the problem of maybe the assessment of other causes of it. Just want to hear that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but as we're ramping up the primary digester, it's sort of a linear. Every day, we're putting better, more treated solids into the composting.
Correct.
How long does
21 days.
So at the end of 11 days, we'll be sending completely processed solids into the composting building. 21 days after that, we will have no bad, only secondary digested
Digester.
sludge. So in 32 days, we would be back to May 2022, pre-May 2022 levels in both systems, the
With the-
digesters and the
With the
compost.
qualification at current course and speed.
Assuming everything, we don't run into anything.
Yeah,
else. Yeah.
Let me go to Chris and Joe. He has his
John, you
hand
were
up.
saying at the, plant there that you still have, there's still residual raw sewage in the secondary,
Right,
storage
right,
tank.
so that has to get, yeah.
So you don't know how long, so you can't,
21 days.
but you still can't do it because you're still gonna have some secondary in the secondary. So I think the problem is if we put a day on it and then all of a sudden everyone looks
Right.
as they shouldn't smell after 38 days.
It's more just ever.
I don't want everyone all of a sudden at 39 days say it shouldn't smell, where you know, there still is the process which is going on, and it's gonna take some time, and I don't think to put an exact time date on it would be fair for anyone.
It's more just ever since we starting up the primary digester, the whole thing should have been in the positive trajectory of less odors in both the digesters and the compost.
But you're correct.
Look, we've been talking about this for 18 months, and I would say that this is the most optimistic and hopeful I've been over this, you know, from the day Joe and I were standing on top of the digester after the roof blew off. I mean, that was like ground zero. That was a long time. This has taken a long time. And so I have a lot of empathy for the residents, what they've gone through. I would, you know, I would be, I think, naturally a little hesitant to believe that such a good outcome is so close, because of what's happened. But, you know, there's a lot of very qualified third-party professionals working towards a solution, that will get us most of the way there. But I think that Woodard and Curran and others will come up with some more ideas on how we can do things better. That's my take as chairman.
I have some questions about some of the procedure, but I think that would come up in the next item.
Procedure.
In terms of operations and some of the rest in the
Yeah.
emails that we talked about.
Yeah, no, I think that's worthwhile. Any more questions for Dennis, while we have Dennis?
Call in user 4, can you go on mute? Anyone in the audience go on mute?
So I'll just say for those who haven't,
Thank you.
who aren't familiar with Dennis and Wright Pierce, they've done a lot of great work for us over the years. They got the Sacred Heart Pump Station up and running a few years ago for us when that was under a time crunch. And they've attended most of our meetings and always a clear source of information. So Dennis, thank you for being with us.
No problem, folks.
Oh, yeah, no, Joe points out that they did the plan for the new plant, which was a long time ago. But, that's available online if anyone would like a copy of it. So. Dennis, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Okay, let's, I think, also of great interest to the local residents would be the overview of the status and progress on the organizational assessment, as well as the scope and timeline for the completion. Let me, before I ask Mike and Matt to talk a bit about what's going on with this, the idea of an organizational assessment came out of a conversation that I had with the first select woman and I think Bucky, maybe back in January or February. And it was really, kind of came from a conversation along the lines of, look, there's a lot of stuff going on at the plant. The plant's processing 9-10 million gallons of wastewater per day. There's been a change in command since I've been on the commission. A few different folks have run the plant. And we have in excess of $100 million of capital projects that are in the pipeline. before we start spending that kind of money on capital projects, would it not make sense to do a kind of a deep dive into what we're good at and and what we need help with? And I think it was an excellent suggestion from the first select woman. And we had a special meeting to discuss that, and we agreed that, I believe it was Matt from our commission, Tom Bremer, and Bucky would get together and interview some firms who do this for a living, to come in and look at kind of what we have. You know, I've heard numbers that the plant and the equipment and the pipeline might be a $200 million investment. You know, that's pretty significant. And we don't have a lot of staff. How many people are in the department now, John? 14 people, $200 million investment. So, Matt, Tom, and Bucky interviewed a number of firms, and they selected Woodard and Curran a few months ago to pretty extensive scope of services. And that is, I'll turn it over to you guys at this point in time to give us an update. What's going on with that?
Again, Mike Head with Woodard and Curran.
Welcome back, Mike.
Thank you. As you said, Mark, so we're just getting ramped up with the operational study. Oh, yeah, thank you. Operational evaluation here. As you alluded to earlier, we were on site at the plant about a week and a half ago doing some of the initial condition assessment, equipment condition assessment work. And the next step is the operational evaluation. So another aspect of our firm is we also operate plants. We operate about 50 of them throughout the country. So we have our own template that we bring into facilities when we take over operations of them to do the same thing. Is just really, you know, are there SOPs in place? Are they being followed? You know, look at the relationship with the regulatory agencies, Connecticut Deep, for instance. Look at the, you know, maintenance schedules and things like that, and just make sure those things are in place. And as Mark said, it's not to find fault. It's just to find the areas you're excelling at and the areas that you need to maybe shift focus or do something a little bit different. So the on-site part of the operational assessment will begin next Wednesday. We got that nailed down yesterday, as a matter of fact, so that was good. So we'll have a couple of our operators on site with John and just speaking with him and his staff and just getting those questions answered. The report that will fall from that shouldn't take too long after we do the assessment. But it's almost like a report card. There are 29 different areas we're looking at. It's kind of almost like a report card that says, you know, this is where you guys are killing it and where you might want to take a deeper look at what you can do to bolster what you're doing. Once that part is complete, the second part is an organizational study, and that's going to look more at the town of Fairfield and the WPCA and how those two units communicate and work well together. So at the end of the day, you should have a pretty comprehensive kind of outline of where you may need to put some additional resources, or if there are additional staff that you need, those will be identified and put forth. So
right.
We're moving. I'm hoping we'll have the operational assessment complete in about a month or so.
Comments, questions? Nancy?
Thanks for that. I guess before I would want to really dive in talking about sort of how we got here and process and who's overseeing what, because I think that still remains a question, just at least from some of the inbound emails we've gotten. And thank you for that. I think it's going to be super helpful. I would just first want to make sure that we've covered, just to give the residents a sense, and maybe we'll hear that from the public comment, but that people feel assured that everything is being done. And I've heard it. We've heard it tonight. We've discussed it, that everything's being done. It takes time, that no one's not doing everything they can to expedite this, that everyone involved, every stakeholder recognizes, the urgency of this. We all feel it. I mean, at least, I don't want to speak on everyone's behalf, but that's what I'm hearing. Because before I turn to some of the operational questions, is there, and again, maybe we'll just have to hear that in the comments, but, first and foremost, I just wanted to reiterate that point, that we recognize that some of this is operational, political, et cetera, and that's not the first priority. And some of this lends itself to that, the discussion of operations. So with that, and if people aren't still feeling heard, if the residents still are unclear, I think I would urge in the comments for somebody to speak out, although I think it's been addressed.
We're not gonna have a Q&A. I think if I was a resident, I would say, if this goes sideways, if this doesn't work,
Right.
or if I need updates, who do I reach out to? And I think it became very clear today in an email from Jim Baldwin that it's John Bodie and the commission. There might have been some ambiguity before about that, but it's us. And so I want to be very clear. I mean, is there anyone on the commission who thinks there's any ambiguity with that, where the accountability rests? The accountability rests with us and John Bodie. There's now a email link to the commission where we all get the emails, and John's, he's quarterback. Next month we'll have another update from Ray Pierce and from Mike, and if we need to have periodic updates between now and then, we'll do that. But no more of this kind of hot potato. Is it us? Is it the administration? It's us. Okay, I think Jim Baldwin's email today made that very clear. That whereas before there might have been some, DPW, running point on that. When I came on the commission, DPW ran point on just about everything sewer related. But that's not what's in the town charter. So to me, it's very clear. I mean, is there, yes, Matt?
Two comments. One, I just wanted to clarify on, in addition to the organizational operational assessment, you guys will also be doing condition assessment of some of the facility equipment to help in terms of just making sure that we understand what's going to survive over the next 5-ish, 10 years type of thing.
How about 5 months?
Sure, but I mean, the whole point is we want to look at all of the equipment at the facility to make sure that we're in good shape and that we have a good capital plan that aligns with.
Looking at age, we're looking at, likelihood of failure, consequence of failure, and ranking those accordingly, and then throwing
Like I'll say, every time,
prioritization on that with high-level costs.
every time we think we've gotten something fixed or we've found a new used part in Texas, and we finally source that, and we take it to the various, Board of Finance, RTM, and get approval for that, then something else goes. I mean, it's like a game of whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
All this equipment's old.
Yep.
Much of it's antiquated. So, I think the sooner we can get that out and get that publicized, the better. There's millions of dollars that needs to be spent at that plant.
But the condition assessment, and especially with the risk data, will help clarify what can John and his folks just put Band-Aids on or do maintenance and that type of stuff versus what needs to be holistically replaced versus what can be repaired in kind. So, I mean, that's the purpose of this. It's to come up with a good decision criteria for the various.
Look, I'll call a special meeting the day after that report's ready. Yes.
Following up on your comment, I think it's important to note that Attorney Baldwin's email, because I think for residents listening, that seems really clear and concise, and I think it was made so today because historically it has functioned differently. So I think it's important to note that when we get that assessment, and we are responsible now as a commission to make those decisions, that we are empowered to then take what's in the audit and act on it in the way that this commission feels appropriate, because again, we're here now. I do think it's important to look how we got here a little bit because it hasn't worked that way practically. Recognizing within the charter, it hasn't worked practically in that way. The administration has been involved, it hasn't been involved, this person, the DPW director historically. If in fact the assessment shows that John needs more team, we should be able to decide that he needs more team. And so I just, want to reiterate that it was pointed out by Attorney Baldwin where the buck stops, but that has to mean the buck stops here, and we've all heard it and said it.
Stops here and stays here.
Yeah, and I also think it's worth noting, as was pointed out today, as the Board of Selectmen in the next iteration, there isn't a real line of communication to the administration that's clear. Yes, the Board of Selectmen has a member on this body, but what its function isn't clear how it communicates with the administration. So I think that's worth the commission taking up, not necessarily in the time, or maybe it is in the time frame that I'm here, but also how the CFO as ex officio, what that function is. And all of Board of Selectmen are ex officio non-voting members. So I just think it would behoove us all as a commission to really outline for future people sitting in my seat, because I love to talk about inflow and infiltration and learn the language I never thought I'd learn, but, you know.
No, Nancy, you and I are both gone in November.
Right.
Okay, so the commission needs to think, there'll be two new bodies and an evolving mandate that became very clear today.
Yeah.
And a report that will come forward in a matter of weeks. So there's a lot of work to do, and clarity of purpose and accountability, I think, is critical.
And I think, in part, and it's not to finger point, but it's to really understand that some of that confusion of communication, there was a bid that the town got back months before we accepted it, a bid that never even came to the commission in terms of the clean and repair. So I just think moving forward, again, I want to point out, because as the public can see, work has been done. We've been moving forward. It's not that it's been stalled because there's been this confusion, but we also haven't fully been in control as a commission.
Yeah, that came up on the tour. There were 30 or so folks who joined the tour, which I thought was really helpful to actually see the processes and to meet John. And that was one of the points of discussion, that the commission was not involved in the RFP process, didn't review the bid, wasn't asked to opine on the bid, whether it was too high or too low, was not asked to opine on the timing of it, and that's just the way that played out. What's becoming very clear over the last couple of weeks, and particularly clear today, is that process won't exist going forward.
Right.
That this commission was set up by the founding charter members to be separate and distinct to make those decisions. I wish I had more tenure on the commission to be a part of that, because I think that's a way more efficient way to going about it.
I also think it's worth noting that.
No.
Sorry, Joe. Thank you.
10 years
Yes, you've done your time. I also think it's worth pointing out that the budget book doesn't align with the charter, just in the way the structure is set out. So I think that also may be a source of confusion in terms of reporting. So it's not consistent with what's in the charter. But again, I think we've gotten the clarity, which I know is a good thing, and
it came from Sweden, so.
Exactly. And so I would say, for me, not to unleash like angry residents, because I hope people aren't angry anymore now that they've seen on you, John, but it seems like the questions then, just to succinctly answer that question, any questions on timeline either go to this commission at that email to then be asked to you, and they should go to you, and you're the ultimate authority on this.
And we'll be back here in August discussing the digester as we have every month for the last 18 months. It's not something we've been, this isn't new to us. We're aware of this thing, and we're not happy about it. And we think we have the right professionals involved, and we're getting close, but, that's enough out of me.
Yeah.
Jared. And just to clarify, what you were talking about, Nancy, it's my understanding that, that Ray Pierce was involved in and really helped develop the specs for the RFP. It's not, there was a lot of input, and John, I think you worked with them to help spec that out. It's my understanding that the town was, was involved in that very limited
Right,
way,
yours came up
but
with the
the,
spec, yeah.
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 I don't think that's what
Yeah.
Nancy was referring to, though.
No,
I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth.
you
There
go
was,
ahead.
there was a bid, an initial bid last August, I think, of $2.7 million to both clean and repair the digester, which got rejected
Right.
by individuals of the town. It never came back to us as a commission. I think that was your point.
Right, it was a single bid, there was one bidder.
I'm just trying to clarify.
It was a good decision, it was just the procedure.
The decision, I think, I might have made the same decision. I'm not talking about the decision. But based on Jim Baldwin's identifying how it's going to operate, which is complete, I've been on the commission since 2017. It never operated this way, the way it's outlined in Jim's email.
And it's not to say it shouldn't, it just hasn't.
It just hasn't, history, whatever. It didn't come back, that particular bid. I was just trying to clarify it. It stayed on the town side for resolution. It's the right.
Let me jump in here. Any more comments and questions? We still have quite a bit of road ahead of us tonight.
I have one more
Yes,
just
sir.
with respect to that whole, so the charter that I made that whole authority thing clear, except the funding process is still super confusing to me, that we authorize something, but then it still has to go through the other 3 or 4 channels in the town.
Yeah.
Where does that come from if we're in autonomous group? I understand that, like, with the bonding that we get through the town, maybe, is that why we have to go through those channels, or is that something that should be revisited either as part of the organizational
Yeah,
assessment?
it's an excellent question. If we need an emergency repair of a new generator for $125,000, and this is a $200 million entity, and yet we know it's gonna take us 4 months to get approval to spend
Exactly.
$125,000, even if we have a line item in the budget that we can reallocate, seems ridiculous,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But yet we have to do it.
I think there are emergency, and this should be clarified, perhaps we could turn over to, Mr. Brummer in the room, but I believe that there are mechanisms that would allow for that, and I see a nod, but there are mechanisms that would allow in the cases of emergency.
Right, but
I mean,
I
it
don't
would be a
even
matter of
understand why it would
changing-
have to be an emergency. Like, I mean, granted, we did a great job
Right,
expediting funding on the digester with the special meeting, and then, I mean, everybody, it seemed like,
Yeah.
worked together to get that done fast, but I also don't even understand why we had to go through those channels. Why couldn't we have a special meeting, approve the job, and then it just goes? Like, if we're supposed to be kinda autonomous. That's, I just don't understand the process.
and maybe that's the thing, and I don't know this, is that has to be addressed either in charter or by charter or whatever the state statute, maybe it has to work in concert, but I imagine that's a charter issue.
To me, Jim's memo this morning was quite different than the way that, since I've been on the commission for the
Right,
last 6 years.
yeah.
The way we've been operating.
Right.
He's in Sweden on vacation. I think when he gets back, I think it would be fair for him to answer all our questions. I don't think I don't think any of us in this
That's
room
fair.
at this moment have the answer.
I guess the reason I brought it
have
up
half a dozen
now,
questions that,
I would like Mike and team's
Yeah.
organizational
To be able to
Right,
act on
right.
that.
address that
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a part of
that
that.
should be the step one.
Does
Step
any
one is
highly
design.
functional water pollution control authority go through what we have to go through to spend $100,000? That would be the question.
Highly functional, he said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, say it, yes.
That should never lift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that has to wait
Right.
until we get,
Yeah.
Maybe we
Jim.
could put that on August.
Yeah, for sure we will.
Well, I
John,
think
thoughts,
Mike will find it.
comments, questions? Mike, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, moving along, we have a few kind of old business items that don't directly address kind of the odor issue. I'm gonna suggest that we talk about the Attorney Briggs siphons.
You can move the discussion of the,
Yeah.
you can move it right now. You could, if for a 2/3 vote of the
Yeah, let's-
commission, you can move that item. You could,
Why don't we
you don't
do
even
that?
have an item.
Yeah.
It's 8:15, and I suspect that some people would like to,
I'd like to move the discussion up of any, residents' questions for the digester or anything else you might have questions on up to this point in the meeting.
I would say more, statements than questions. I don't think we're gonna directly, we'll take on the comments.
See how it goes.
We'll, again, we're gonna meet again in August. And then we have a number of, I recognize we have the engineering department here. We still have a number of old business items that are gonna take some time to go through.
I'll second it, but was that a motion?
Yes, it was.
I'll second it, but with the discussion of, if people have questions, I would urge people to ask them, and then we can address them if we don't get to them tonight, but to make sure that people at least feel like they're able to ask their questions.
Look, I'm all in favor of answering questions. I just want to try to keep some structure
Right.
to this meeting because we have professionals who still need to present some pretty important projects to us. All in favor?
Can I ask one question? Sorry, this is Kate
Who are
Sullivan.
you, please?
Hi, this is
Okay.
Kate Sullivan. The residence, I think you had asked for originally, if we had a question, is 97 Fox Street. And did you need anything else before my quick question?
I don't think so. I feel like I know you well from the email chain.
God, I'll tell you, if I never send another email and no one ever reads it, it would be too soon. But
I've
thank
read
you
them
all.
all.
Thank you
Yeah,
all.
they're good.
Obviously, some of us are closer to the digester than others. This meeting has been very helpful, and we do appreciate everybody who's worked hard to find the solution. My two questions are, if we have specific information, as you clarified today, it's the commission and John Bodie. To that end, if we do have a question, is there someone that can answer for the commission without having to assemble all 8 of you? I guess there's so much discussion tonight that I worry that, or I don't worry, I just wonder, is there a spokesperson? Do you guys meet offline and then get back to us? Can John answer it? Obviously, depending on what the question is.
So it's funny that I have the issue about answering questions, and I'm gonna answer. Your emails are outstanding, they're to the point, they're concise. The tricky thing that I've been warned, and I know Sheila is on the line, and she'll help me out tomorrow with this. But if I reply all to everyone on the commission, it's akin to having a meeting. And so I can't do that. So we will figure out a process. That's why going to John Bodie, not only does he know more than all of us on the commission and is far more qualified, makes it a lot easier. Because I can't really hit reply all, because if I do, then that's like having
It's an FOI violation.
FOI.
yeah.
I've violated it so many times.
Wow,
So
interesting.
I've kind of been slapped for doing that, so I try not to. But look, John will answer if he needs to. If we need to have a special meeting, we'll have a special meeting. We'll have another meeting in August with the same professionals. We got the message. We have great empathy, and I feel like we're moving in the right direction.
That's great. Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's helpful to know too, because I think part of what we're really trying to get to the bottom of as neighbors is less the responsibility. I think we'll, solve that down the road in due time. But really just if we have a question, we don't necessarily need advocacy or people saying, yeah, this is a problem. We just want whoever knows what's going on to answer that. So understanding the commission can't respond. And John Bodie, sorry, but thank you all at once. That probably get a lot of questions directed to you, and then we'll defer to you even if you can tell us, we're going to have to take this up at a special meeting, or just something so we know. Not that nothing's moving forward, but you can imagine we hear the solutions and then we go outside and cancel, parties and can't walk dogs and everything. We just want to know what's going on beyond that.
We get it. So that I would say Joe and myself converse with John Bodie via email probably on average 20 times a day,
Yeah.
15 times a day. It's really become a full-time job,
Yeah. Which is also why it's hard to we just, many of us are also very sympathetic to those of you who obviously serve very well, but we know this is not necessarily your full-time job. And so we really appreciate it. And it's part of why and I'm sorry, I know some are nodding. If it is your full-time job, gentleman in the blue shirt, thank you. But nonetheless, yeah.
Yes, I'm retired, so it's my full-time job.
Except
Oh,
on
God
Tuesday.
bless. God bless.
Not Tuesday.
Not Tuesday.
Those are-
But nonetheless, I think that's it. And, you know, I think some people will all sort out the nitty gritty and the post-mortem, but right now we just want fresh air. My final question, very short. I just kind of tuning into this meeting, there was discussion that the original RFP, I think you guys didn't even see. So again, not getting into the post-mortem, but you've introduced several, you know, seemingly very buttoned up, outstanding groups who are helping us now. Just to confirm, the commission and John Bodie being in charge, even if you weren't part of the beginning phases, it sounds like you've all greenlit and approve and feel strongly about the people who are in these roles now, which I think is what we as residents want to know when we continue to hear this, smell the smell.
Yeah, I don't recall if we saw the RFP or not, but you did?
I think, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I think Kate's referring to the digester cleaning RFP that
Initially.
was
Yes.
rejected last year, not the
Not
operation.
the operation.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Thank
I
you.
would say, so are we talking about the digester clean RFP?
So
Yeah,
that
just
initial
meaning
one,
that-
we did not see that.
Yeah, I'll say that, well, I didn't see it, but look, I'm not sure I add a lot of value to a digester repair RFP.
I think the
and
question
right
Kate
to-
is trying to get to is that we feel comfortable now with Mike's team, with
Yes.
Dennis, and that we're
Yes,
confident
yes,
as a
absolutely.
commission, yes.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Great.
That's a great question.
And also just to clarify, we did see we saw the,
Audit scope.
well, the proposal for the
proposal.
current contractor that did the cleaning and,
Right, that's what she's
digester
asking.
repairs.
Yeah.
We just didn't see the first one last summer.
Thank you all very
Any
much.
other comments? Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kate.
Can I ask from here?
Of course.
No,
But just know you have to go on
So
the.
you have to go to the photo.
Sorry.
you gotta go front. Nice try.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah.
Helen will get mad at you.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the speaker's there too.
Hi, I'm Christine Brown. I'm an RTM representative who represents District 9, which is the beach district, which currently has the digester in it. So,
Your address for the record, I think.
oh, I'm sorry, my address is 82 Roland Road. So, this is the first I heard about a letter from Jim Baldwin and, talking about who's in charge of what. So, I have the same concern as Kate Sullivan. I'm trying to represent my constituents. I've been in touch with a lot of constituents over the past year about this issue, and quite frankly, they've been driving the bus. And when I try and get information, I want to know who to go to as well. So I'm just curious, is there a reason, and you may not know the answer, but is there a reason why I or the other representatives in my district would not have been copied on that memo from, is there a reason why we can't have access to that information?
Please,
I can answer that.
Okay, yeah, sure. Makes sense.
Hi, thank you for the question. Pam Iacono from the First Selectwoman's Office. She couldn't be here this evening. As you all know, she had a death in her family. She would very much have been here otherwise. But the answer to your question is, that was a reply all on a neighborhood distribution that was started, honestly, I don't know where the chain began. And anyone who's on it knows that this has been an evolving process that honestly, frankly, I've been trying to put the genie back in the bottle and saying, please use this address, please use the 2 box, please use the CC box. So it was, that's the genesis of it.
It's funny because I've been on
There are several chains with several different
I'm on
people.
every one.
And to be perfectly frank, I've been in the office for the past couple of days, and we've all been trying to get everybody in an Excel spreadsheet in one location so that we're capturing the people that want to be captured. If you'd like to be added to it, I'm happy to do that. But that's the genesis. We didn't start anything out of our office and decide to email people. we've been trying to, we've been trying to be responsive. As you know, anything that comes through the office and goes out is FOIable. You don't need the FOIA. I'd be happy to give you what the town attorney put out.
I didn't know if the issue was the same one that you brought up, Mark, about
So that,
the reply all.
that's the because it was coming out of a neighborhood, and the town attorney isn't a member of a body, so he was easily able to hit reply all. I've hit reply all on procedure, so.
Okay. And can I echo something?
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Nancy Lefkowitz, Board of Selectmen. I just want to echo that I think, the hope from all of that, because there were so many different emails flying around that, good efforts to try and put the genie back in the bottle, but that's why this meeting became so important, to get us all in a room, so we could all hear all of this, so that we could say out loud that Attorney Baldwin sent this email, because it wasn't a secret. I mean, he was really referencing the charter, he was calling things out and sort of codifying and solidifying the way the administration, is going to act moving forward based on that, giving us that authority and sort of, again, codifying the fact that it's John Bodie who is the ultimate sayer. So it was, echoing what Pam just said. It was not that we were triangulating, or it was that there were so many emails that we were all responding to, and the only way we were going to get to this was having this meeting, so.
Well said.
Is there a way to get an email that could go to the residents? I mean, there's all these social media things.
As Pam, representing the Office of the First Select Woman, just said, she's happy to take emails, but perhaps in the newsletter, just a suggestion, she can share this week the emails of the WPCA, and questions about it can be addressed there, or to John Bodie, or however we do it without opening a can of worms. But that's probably the most effective form of communication.
Excellent.
Thanks,
So we have
everyone.
one
Thanks,
question in
Sam.
the room, and Elizabeth, I see that your hand's up, so I'm gonna come to you second.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for.
Wait.
Liz,
Okay.
hold a minute.
Doreen Herron is up.
Oh, forgive me.
Okay.
Hold on.
Hold a minute, Liz.
Hi, Doreen Herron, 53 Forest Avenue. I just have two quick little questions, comments. First, I was just excited to hear that we would be putting in, I guess, actually measuring the odor, because I think sometimes when a resident complains, the answer is like all odor preventative measures are in effect, and it doesn't really kind of get to the, well, why does it really stink today? So I'm happy to hear that there'll be data collected on that. The second thing was, I just wanted clarification. I know we weren't putting a timeline per se on it, but I wanted to make sure I was clear. 11 days left for the digester, and then 21 in addition to that for the composter, and is that 32 days? Because I've heard those numbers, so I just want to make sure I'm hearing it correctly. Because I know you can't promise anything, but if all goes well, are those numbers that we're discussing, 32 days?
Should be the number, yes.
Thank you.
At current course and speed.
Liz, you're up. Is it
Thank
Liz or
you,
Elizabeth?
and good evening. Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to follow up on, I'm obviously a member of the RTM.
Sorry, your
I think
name
that's
and address for the record.
Absolutely. Elizabeth Zezima. My address is 160 Fairfield Woods Road, apartment 22. And I am also a member of the RTM. So as a follow-up to Christine's message and Pam's response, I think anything that distributes the type of information that Mr. Baldwin issued that is of an operational or a contact nature, I think probably should be sent, and the proper procedure is the RTM should be in receipt of that information. It would go to the moderator, and then he would share it with the entire body. It's just the kind of information that we could use. Number one, it helps to clarify what's been a confusing, trying to unravel who's who, what the hierarchical structure is, who we contact. So I would recommend, rather than trying to send it to just the district affected by this, that maybe the entire body, this could be shared with the entire body through our moderator.
Can I
Yes,
make a
please,
recommendation?
Nancy.
That since Mr. Baldwin is on vacation and we're going to invite him to a meeting perhaps in August, that once we have the opportunity to clarify some of the questions we have internally, at that point we share sort of broadly, because at this point, we're sort of, some of the questions you have about, budget and whatnot still remain unanswered, and I just fear that if we do that right now, we're opening up a
Yeah.
bigger can of worms.
Yeah, I think there's certain things that we can't address tonight, but if I'm a resident, I want to know that there's someone tomorrow morning who's accountable.
But we've already,
I just want to I'm going to keep going back to
Yeah.
that, because people hear like, oh, did they move from that? We're not moving from that. Tomorrow morning, any issues, John Bodie, copy to the commission, and we respond.
I just mean that the deep dive that they're asking for.
I know, I guess.
Would put a pin in, yeah.
Please.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask a clarifying question, because I do have to go back and report to someone tomorrow.
Yeah.
With the 32 days that you just answered for Mrs. Herron, and then I did also hear that then the undigested sludge goes to We Care Denali, and that'll sit there for 28 days? So is it really 32 plus the 28 before all of the undigested stuff is off-site?
Anything that comes out of the compost goes to We Care Denali, and it
Right.
sits there for 30 days and gets tested. By that time, there should be no odor, or very little odor.
So there's not, so once it leaves,
Once it leaves the compost, it can go to We Care Denali for 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 10, 12
and it doesn't smell anymore when it's at We Care Denali?
Yeah, John and I actually did a walking tour of that, one of the perks of this commission.
The new girl got to go to the treatment plant today.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. I mean,
Okay.
I thought it would, the pile we went to had just come out of the shed, right?
Yep.
No, so,
Actually, you can go get it.
anybody wants to go and take a look at it, it's right there as you go into We Care Denali off to the right, and it smells like wood chips.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't another.
You can go get it. As a resident, you're
I
entitled
actually
to
do,
one,
that is where I get my mulch.
one bucket,
to be honest with you.
one something of it, so.
All right, I just wanted to be clear that there was no more odorous after.
I think though, if you can help us on kind of what the appropriate email distribution process, that would be super helpful, because
Specific to what Representative Zesma was saying, this issue is not an RTM matter, so it's not necessary for this type of item to go through the moderator to the RTM, that they weren't involved in a neighborhood question that a resident asked and the town attorney answered, so.
what would be
I don't think that would be
a
irrelevant, I don't think that pertains to this particular instance. If this were an RTM voting item and something were coming through and the RTM was looking for information, then that information is disseminated through the moderator to the appropriate bodies. But this particular issue was germane to basically a resident asking a question and getting an answer.
Okay.
I would just suggest in response to that, that for now, the mantra, and not even for now, moving forward, the mantra is John Bodie is the authority. However, because that email was circulated and now there are some questions in terms of residents wanting answers that were presented publicly, it just may behoove us to some way communicate what comes out of that meeting with Jim Baldwin and whatever mechanism can be communicated. So not that it's an RTM issue specifically, but that it pertains to residents. So I would just push back on that. But it's not a.
That's a
voting
decision
item.
for you to make as
Exactly.
a authority. It's not a decision for us to make how you want to disseminate information, but I'm just telling you specific to what I just answered. This was not relevant to the RTM, and that's why something like that wouldn't go through the moderator.
Yes, please.
Emily Sherwood, 108 Long Dean Road. Not to beat a dead horse over this, but I think it's really, really important that you don't just collect emails or something like that, because I have friends who aren't buying houses in Fairfield. I have a lot of people who are going to move back and aren't. They don't want to share their emails, but if we could have a letter out to people in the beach area, aside from just sharing emails, it'd be a really, really important thing. the neighborhood app, there are just random people saying, what is that horrible smell? They have no idea what's going on. And they're not just, they have no idea who, you seem like a great guy, but they don't know who John Bodie is. So, you know, why are they gonna be emailing him, you know? So I think it's really important that you find another way than sharing emails. I just want to really get that out.
I guess it's, can I, oh, sorry.
There you go, and then, Bill?
I would just say that, you know, now serving, on the Board of Selectmen, we have that issue communicating broadly, not just on this, when you have an issue related to town. So I guess we could decide as a commission to write a letter that we ask the first selectwoman to generate from her newsletter. I don't know how else we put it out. We could put a statement up on what, I don't know, but I do think that it's worth communicating, and if it's our authority to communicate it, then we should generate the message.
Can we put it on the town website?
The first selectwoman sends out a biweekly newsletter, and we take updates and reports from town departments all the time. So if you have a concise, you know, summary of what you would like added to the newsletter, the only thing that we ask is that you get it to us by Wednesday close of business, the Friday before the newsletter goes out. So if you send that, we actually have an email address, newsletter@fairfieldct.org. That comes to those of us who are involved in working with the first selectwoman on putting that newsletter together. And we're happy to share whatever communications you would like to give us. So if after this meeting you want to send me a summary and we can put something in there, I've been here, I can help you work on that. Or if you want to do that moving forward, you know, that's an excellent vehicle. And certainly the town website, you can post to the town website, you know, directly to your you have your own page.
I think that's probably the right mechanism then, because if people aren't, to Ms. Sherwood's point, they don't have email. Maybe it is through the website with their own page.
Is there anyone from the commission who wants to work on that endeavor?
I'll do it.
All right. You're a gifted writer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam, that's super helpful. Bill, please.
Bill Gerber, I'm on the RTM District 2, 25 Shady Hill Road. It's not a question, I'm gonna make a statement that, I think I heard something from the gentleman, was it Dennis? On the phone. I thought I heard him start to say that the digester technology is old or antiquated. He kind of stopped short, but if that's the case, I was just wondering if that's gonna be part of the review of the system, whether this is the best technology for us to be using at this point. My second point, and I may have misheard. My second point was, Chris had mentioned something about, you know, what about the holding tank? And if that's full, does that add to the 21 days plus the 11 days? Because that has to be flushed through the system as well. I think you were, no? Maybe I misinterpreted.
The secondary tank is not full. I can't tell you how much is in there, but I would say at this point it's probably half and half.
So, half
digested, half.
Okay, so by the time the 11 days is up, we won't have undigested material in the holding tank that might add to the timeline?
Probably.
We probably won't.
Probably won't.
Okay.
I can't say 100%, but most likely no.
Okay, thank you. And my third point was that it's not just the budget that has the org chart. I think we need to look at all of the bonding document, the prospectuses that go out for town bonding. They have an org chart in there that has the DPW being the direct line of reporting from Mr. Bodie. And as we consider the fact that the town is on the hook, you know, ultimately for bonding, there's going to be the implications of saying that they have literally nothing to do with the operations. We're going to have to consider that in the operating discussions. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, do you want to speak at all to the digester? I heard that also. I mean, theoretically.
It's an old technology, but some municipalities just use the gas that is a byproduct of digestion to, like, we use it to heat that process so that it's self-driven. Some people do cogen, some do gas to, like compressed natural gas. I don't think we generate enough to really do something of that nature. It's a high upfront capital, but I mean, digestion is a necessary process, right? I mean, nobody does anything else.
Yeah, it was very popular for a long time, and the state got away from it, and now they wish they had it back, because it reduces the volume of sludge being produced, and there's a pretty big bottleneck.
Right.
With
Yeah.
liquid.
And that's a really good point. There's, you know, if we didn't compost, the options of trucking away sludge, you used to be able to pay and ship it somewhere, and
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
doesn't really exist anymore, that business.
It's getting tighter and tighter.
Nancy?
I think it's worth bringing up, because there have been some discussions, and conversations in these back and forth emails, and I want to set the record straight on, in public. There was some question that we got into this position in the first place because it was years of neglect. My understanding from the conversations we had as a commission were, that it's really ultimately a philosophical discussion about routine maintenance versus responding to repair. And so I just want to, I guess, reiterate that conversation, that that's not the case, that it wasn't years of neglect, that, you know, the team that's been there has been on it, and that, it wasn't because of a lack of doing something that would have prevented us from getting here in the first place. There was an email asking that question earlier today, and so I guess I just think it's important to...
I'm not sure what meeting it was, but when this happened, we looked at that, and, you know, for those of us in the, you know, finance world, we know insurance companies don't pay claims if there's neglect. And the insurance company did their analysis, did their due diligence, and they wrote us a check for how much?
Almost $1 million.
$1 million. Look, if it was neglected or operator error, there's no way we're getting $1 million on that policy. So I think that covers the point.
Yeah, I just wanted to nip that in the bud, because I think it's not fair to, you know, current state of...
No, I think you know, that the plant, you know, it's consistently over the years been awarded, you know, best run. You know, it's got many accolades for the way in which this plant has been run. And the rates are, what, about 30% below what the surrounding towns are. You know, it's probably the most affordable utility. Anyone who has a sewer, you know, I'm a septic guy, but if you have a sewer, it's the best deal you got going on any utility.
Again, everyone should walk away feeling confident in the team in place. Thank you, John, and that it's, again, underscoring that point, so.
Good point.
Just to add something to that, my only concern with, you know, following that philosophy is going forward, what's going to happen with the digester, and how often is it going to be maintained, serviced, updated, cleaned? While there may not be conclusive evidence to say what caused it, you know, this issue did come up in the FY14 budget when the funding was included in the operating budget for cleaning up the digester. And it was pretty clear from the narrative that was in there that it's an important thing to do, and it should be done more often than every 20 years. You know, so I wouldn't want to jump to the conclusion that it's not important for this to be done on a more regular basis.
I don't think anyone insinuated that. Is that your professional opinion on the clean? I mean, Mike,
no, it's the opinion of whoever wrote that narrative in the budget.
Do we know who that is?
It was somebody at WPCA who wrote it.
So somebody.
My comment was really just going to be that I agree. I mean, I think the insurance company, to your point, would not have written the check, but we can still learn lessons from the event and apply it in terms of at least being deliberate in terms of when we either want to replace or clean the tanks, which is an extremely expensive process, or do preventative maintenance on pressure relief valves, because that was a contributing factor also, combination of not cleaning it, and I think it was a faulty pressure relief valve, right?
We're assuming that, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, obviously making sure that and I mean, there's tons of valves at the treatment plant, and so, I mean, having That's why doing some of that risk analysis on site will help. Now we have some good consequence of failure data on the pressure relief valve of our tank. If it breaks, it's gonna be, or if it doesn't work and it creates a failure, it's gonna be a pretty expensive one. There are other valves on site that if they don't work, literally nothing happens, like, it's not a big deal, so.
And whatever happens in the future with the funding mechanisms, I'll tell you, the administration will be in full support of funding the servicing of it, the cleaning of it more often.
Excellent. Yeah,
We
I
heard
just
it
found out today that you're on the commission,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, welcome.
Well,
Yeah,
this is
welcome.
a funky bunch.
Yeah, sure.
With
Yeah.
future cleanings come odor complaints. Because
Right.
we'll be operating the same way we are right now, or worse.
Yeah, good point. Hi.
Thank you. Christine Brown, one more question.
Sure.
I guess this is really for John. There's a woman at the tour tonight who is saying that, Week Here Denali is supposed to be sprinkling, watering the compost, and they're not doing that. Should that be done? And if it should, is there any way that we can enforce that?
I would have to look at the contract that they have with the town. I don't know if that is indeed in their scope, but it's something that we can look into. And, I mean, if it's part of their contract, then yeah, we can make it do it.
Okay.
Joe.
Based on Mr. Baldwin's email this morning, I believe that question should go to the interim DPW director, because that contract is with the town, not with us.
That's a good point.
So that has to go to John.
John Marsilia. There you go.
So can I direct that question to you, John?
I believe odor control is in their contract.
Okay.
And so if they're not
It
doing
is.
it, is there any way to enforce that?
Sure.
Breach of contract.
Will you take care of that?
Yes, if they're not doing it, we will be sure that they.
Now that's efficiency of execution. There you go. All right, any more questions? I'm sympathetic to our engineering department that has a number of projects to walk us through. I would invite everyone to stay and talk about, or listen, or unless,
You got somebody else here.
Oh, I'm sorry, was there another question? Did I miss?
I have one other question, but I think Elizabeth, the RTM member, had one first. Zazina.
Okay.
Thanks,
Your hand
Kate.
up.
I just wanted to clarify for Pam's further understanding, I didn't mean to suggest that we should receive as an RTM, as a body, the entire chain of correspondence. There was a section of Attorney Baldwin's email that I have not seen, that I understand is very specific about organizational structure. And I think that would be very useful for us because, of course, we do hear from constituents and we would like to provide them with the correct information, whether it's contacts or, you know, how these two groups work together. So if it's
Okay.
preferable, I can reach out to Attorney Baldwin myself and share with my own copy.
I think you'll get an out-of-office reply, so there's probably a more efficient way of getting that to you.
October 26th.
When is he back? I heard you mention that earlier, but I don't.
The 26th.
I would suggest
Of July.
Pam's here and she seems open to send her an email and she'll send you on the email from Attorney Baldwin.
All right, thank you, and thanks, Pam, in advance.
Sure. Kate Sullivan, and then we'll go to
Thank
Bill
you.
Hurley.
Very last question, and apologies because it seems like devil in the details, but I appreciate the resident that raised the note. If you all are handling now communicating to a broader group, because there's all sorts of one-off emails and social media posts about it. My only question I have, or maybe caution, is if the updates from your commission and John Bodie are included in the first Select Woman's newsletter, I would recommend it's highlighted that she's not overseeing this project, she has no handle in it, whatever the case, because a lot of questions have come out of her updates on the newsletter, and then people turn back to her and say, we have follow-ups about this. So that's helpful.
I was thinking the same thing, Kate. Well, at 9 o'clock tonight, the answer's not obvious.
Sure.
But I think tomorrow morning, we'll have a better idea of whether that goes on our web. We'll figure it out. I just don't know the answer.
I just don't want to get back into the tangled web we wove with that in a larger group.
It's an excellent point. I'm
Thank you
sure the
very
first
much.
Select Woman will appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think that closes that, an unscheduled agenda point. And, next in front of us, we have the discussion on the Turney Bridge siphons, that go across Ash Creek. The discussion is the need for 3 siphons and whether additional funding must be approved if we go with 3 siphons. And I'm shocked to see people.
I just got windburned.
Yeah, usually engineering clears out the boring stuff. But let me just start off by saying there might be some confusion. Back in 2018, the sewer siphon / 2 self-regulating tie gates and 3 culverts project was $2 million. Now the siphon and the tie gate portion have gone up to about $4.6 million. As we all know, the costs have increased tremendously over the last couple of years. Well, the same thing goes with the sewer siphon portion. It was, I think, $432,000 back in 2019. And in 2021, January of 2021, it went up to $784,000. And then you could even add a little bit more to that, obviously, for today's cost. The $784,000 is not, oh, well, we just have the 3rd siphon. That's for the replacing the siphons that are there already, which was always part of the project. Any drainage, municipal drainage, bridge, capital improvement projects always require the utilities to replace their main services or whatever at the utilities cost. So the gas company, who also has to relocate, has to do it at their cost as well. The actual 3rd siphon, which we learned was mainly for there was a term that the engineer used, redundancy, was really in case of one of the main siphons needed maintenance. That was the primary purpose of that 3rd siphon. The present peak flow is 6 million, and they have a future max peak flow of 10 million, and that's what the siphons sizes are based on. And the 2 siphons apparently can handle the 10 million gallons per day. What I don't know if that, because it was a figure that Bill Norton, one of John's predecessors at the treatment plant, had given. I don't know if that includes any I&I or if that's strictly peak flow. So the 3rd one could also provide possibly additional capacity, but the main reason was redundancy for if one of the siphons needed maintenance or you had to close it off for some reason. The 3rd one was there. How much does the 3rd siphon actually cost? Using the cost estimate provided by Ty and Bond, we had 300 feet of 18-inch diameter pipe, so you would take off a 3rd, for that. A 3rd from the ductile iron coupling, a 3rd from the elbows, a 3rd from the pipe fittings, and a 3rd from the isolated slide plates, and you come up with about $40,000. So that's how much difference in cost the actual 3rd siphon is, $40,000. But then I also looked at the manholes. Having 3 siphons, you had to have a bigger manhole chamber. So if we added a rate of that of about 10,000, that gets to about $50,000. So the main reason is manpower, labor costs, supply costs, and the fact that back in 2019, these were only conceptual costs, while now they're more detailed, and that's the main reason for the additional cost. It wasn't the 3rd siphon. The 3rd siphon pipe, if the commission decided not to have it, they would save about $50,000. So, again, it's a risk management kind of question of, well, if we wait and then there's a problem with one of the siphons 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, we gotta excavate, we gotta work around the bridge, we gotta close the road again, we gotta do all the dewatering, repaving, get permits, et cetera, bypass the whole thing there. So, in the opinion of Bill Norton, John Richer, who was the consultant, Laura Pooley, and Brian Carey at that time, and after reading all this information, I would still recommend the third siphon, being that it's about $50,000 in cost.
Of the total project?
Of the total project.
Of which is now?
Which is now, I have, as I said, it was 784 back in 2021. It's probably around 800,000 to 900,000 in today's and that's an estimate in 2023 cost. If it's possible, I don't know if the commission has to approve a specific amount, that might be a question for Jared, or you simply say that we approve the project, we put it out to bid, and whatever because we can separate it, or we could even do an ad alternate if this commission wanted to, where we would say, the ad alternate would be, you separate it out it's like section B would be for the sewer siphon portion, and then even do an ad alternate for the third siphon if you wanted to. And if for some reason the prices go up and you don't want to do the third siphon, you could always pull it away. Or if you're like, you know what, the bids only came in at 600,000, wow, and then you do the 50,000 more for your third siphon. But hopefully that it helps or explains what has been going on there.
Helps a lot.
And I'm here to answer any questions I can.
I was pointing at Matt like she was raising.
You wanna go engineering first, or you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. So I've been on this commission, Bill, long enough to remember 2017, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the answer. When they looked and inspected those siphons, there was absolutely nothing wrong with them, okay? The interim, Public Works Director, Brian Carey, came to us, said, we've got a I can recall, it was in the basement of this building, we were meeting downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
We have a conservation project. We are going to close the roads. We are going to dig up that bridge. We've got to fix the gates. This is 2019 now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're recommending, this is the first time that I recall that two town departments actually coordinated on a project and said.
Now we have 3 or 4.
Now we've got a few more, which is excellent. We recommend that you replace those siphons, which have never given us any problem. I'll turn to John. I've asked the question. Clogging, maintenance, no problems at all on them. My position, now that it's gone from 400,000 when it was 2019 to somewhere between 900 and up based on whatever bids there, my position is, why do we do it? And that was 2. The engineering report, when it came back with 3, and actually it came back with 4, if you recall. That question was asked of the engineer.
Oh,
So it went from, we don't need it, to maybe 4 siphons, 2 replacing the original and 2 redundant. And it went from 400,000 to 900 plus whatever you just.
Well, like I said,
I'm not arguing, not arguing.
No, I know that. No.
I'm just stating the story for the new members of the commission that weren't around in those days.
Right. But what I was saying is, the original project also was only $2 million, and that's almost doubled in cost.
Absolutely. I'm not questioning the numbers at all.
It wasn't because of the third site.
Right.
I just want to make that clear.
And the other thing I will remind the commission is, we've got plenty of needs for money. I mean, $1 million to replace 2 siphons that may not be needed is a big decision.
Now, again, the other thing to keep in mind, and again, just for full disclosure, I don't remember, or anybody saying that there was never any problem. I don't know of any major problem, certainly the last, say, 5 or 10 years. But I do remember my predecessor and probably a couple of predecessors before John did saying, that every once in a while we have a problem with that one. Now, whether they've magically disappeared or the problem, is some SSO beforehand and so it's not affecting that, I don't know.
Right, and the only thing I could say is we could look at the maintenance records for the last couple of years.
Yeah, that would be.
And there's been no clean out, nothing, no problem.
I'm not aware of any either, that's
all,
right.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
And then the fourth one, again, just for, full disclosure on it, the fourth siphon was just to see if it was a capacity thing, but upon further research, because again,
Okay,
I was
went away.
coming in on
It
this
went
one
away.
as well, a little bit later into the project. And, so we had asked about the fourth one being if it was a capacity thing, and then it was determined it was really redundant pipe, so, that's correct.
So, Joe, conceptually, are you thinking that all that work gets done and we put the existing pipes back? Is that what you're
You
thinking?
don't move the existing pipes, they work around them. They stay in place.
Is that possible?
No, I don't think it is. When we do the sheet piling and the coffer dams, we're gonna be extremely close to the existing, lines.
They damage them,
As I mentioned before, for municipal projects, usually it's the responsibility of the utility, just like with the gas, they have to move it over.
So,
And then the other thing, even though we haven't, just like maybe even, I hate to say it, with the digester, you know, it's so many years without a problem. Keep in mind though, these siphon pipes are about 75 years old.
yeah,
I
look,
should have mentioned,
we're
I should have
gonna,
mentioned that.
we're
Thank
gonna
you.
spend, what, $15-20 million upgrading the piping on that part of town, and then we're gonna be cheap on the siphons going over Ash Creek. You know, it reminds me of whoever made the decision of not upgrading the pipe coming out of the Metro Center. And they could have upgraded that to 36 inches, probably for a few $100,000, and put it, you know, while they were excavating and doing all that work. They didn't do it, and now we get stuck with millions of dollars in doing it. To me, it's that same type of thinking.
No, I agree, and it would have made our lives easier as well, because as you know, Joe and I spend many late night meetings trying to get that funded, so, yeah, I totally agree. So.
All right.
Yeah, remember, I'm the finance guy,
Yeah,
and I'm looking at how much money we're spending
yeah.
and we need.
So look, this has been in front of us, I don't know how many times over the last couple of years, and you know, the agenda is discussion, so are we going to continue to discuss? I mean, how much more discussion do we need to have on it before we bring this to a decision?
But just as whether or not it should
Right,
become
and
an
whether
action item.
additional
Oh,
funding
yeah,
should be
I'm
approved.
just
Yeah.
saying, are we at that point?
I mean, do you wanna take a sense of the body?
Yes.
Move forward?
Well, if our decisions are just, like, put these back or upgrade them, then it seems obvious that, I mean, if we could leave them alone, or like, if this project has to be done with or without our participation, then.
So what
We currently have sinkholes on the outskirts, and if it starts going into the road, then we're all in big trouble.
I mean, to Joe's point, if this whole project was just for us, then it sounds like we would not do it. But this project is not just us, in fact, the focus is a project that has nothing to do with us, but it impacts our system. And so it sounds to me like the question is, do we just put our pipes, our 70-year-old pipes back, like, do they move them and then put them back?
Right.
Or do we replace them?
Yeah.
It seems like that's a no-brainer decision.
Yeah, especially when you say it like that.
Right.
So the substantive issue is, what's gonna be the WPCA's portion, what's gonna be the town's portion of this? Because it, like we said, there are 3 or 4 different entities involved in this. And so the resolution does split it out specifically, saying that the town's gonna pay this much, and the WPCA would pay back the town X amount. So if the decision from this board is to, to do the 3, then that amount's gonna be larger, and there would have to be, I'm almost positive, there would have to be an amendment to that resolution.
Except for tonight, and understanding that, tonight the discussion is whether it's like the discussion to act on it, right? Because there's nothing to act on tonight.
Do we kick the can down the road for another month, or do we?
But according to this, we are kicking the can anyway.
Yeah.
So-
Or we just stop kicking.
Right, but there's
I'm
no
sorry.
action, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, there's no, on the agenda, we don't have to act on it. We just have to say, are we going to approve it? And if we have a sense of the body, then we can just kick it to next month, because it's not due, right?
Yeah, I would like to kind of fully vet it at 9 o'clock tonight.
Yeah.
And so that we have a decision, an actionable item next month. We used to take August off.
I'm for spending.
Are you getting ARPA money for this?
For this particular project, no.
Is there any money involved that we could get as funding for it as the commission?
There's a guy named Mark Barnhart who's really good at getting us.
I heard Mark's really good at getting money.
time.
What I can tell you, we have, looked into, as many as 10 different funding sources. And unfortunately, they're all minor pieces, but that's not to say if something comes up in the next month or two, we'll jump on it. But right now, we've delayed the project 2 or 3 years for funding issues and in hopes that, especially when you hear, all the infrastructure money coming in. But the grant writer, myself, and DPW, and, the finance department, we've been looking like crazy, and Mark even probably as well, looking crazy. We've met with MetroCog, we've talked to DOT, to even get a portion, even if it was 25%, that helps, but we haven't been able to get any.
And when we look at these, we have to weigh the likelihood of getting the grant, and, we did get $3 million for the sister project.
Yeah.
East Trunk Main Line, yep.
For the main line replacement, so, I think to think that we would be successful in getting another grant for something similar, probably not likely.
Yeah. Bill, when do you plan on going to bid on this?
Well, again, getting the approvals or whatever, and have to go through, some of the town. Now, the town side approved, the whole package of, I think it was 7.1, correct me if I'm wrong on that, 725. So we could go out to bid pretty soon on it. It's just a matter of whether you guys have an amount or just approval based on the bid, the actual bid
In that
package.
package that they're going out to 7.15, we said we'd pay up to $400,000.
Right.
So far,
That's
that's
part
right.
of that.
That's
Right.
part of the reason why we're here today. That's correct.
I just wanted everybody to catch up.
Sometimes I think that we think we're like different towns,
Well, we found that out today.
We're the.
We really did.
We're the same town.
So-
It's a budget allocation
so-
across departments.
I know, I know.
Yes.
It's not.
My-
That's a misstatement.
my
It's not a
take-
budget allocation between departments. That's a misstatement.
I would like, if it's possible,
All right.
to put an ad alternate in the bid for the third siphon. I wouldn't wanna just blanket approve that. I would, if it's 50,000, then I would probably wanna put it in.
But wait, you clarify that, because didn't you just say we approved 400?
We approved $400,000.
You're saying
But he's talking about a third siphon now.
That's half the
half, okay.
assumed
Yeah,
grant
yeah,
cost.
I just like to clarify something our chairman said, seriously. This is being paid by the sewer ratepayers, any money we allocate,
town residents.
not the taxpayers.
They're town residents, Joe. You're splitting a hair after 9 o'clock on a long night. It's unnecessary.
No, I don't disagree with Joe. I think
I'm
there's
fine.
there's
Let's
there's
drop
a
it.
differentiation.
Let's drop it.
If we know we're going through with this, is it worth pushing it to next meeting, or just saying that,
I don't know if we
wait
can
till the
approve
costs
it.
go
We
go
can,
through? Do we have,
It's not on the
Unless it's
agenda to
two-thirds.
act
done or no?
Yeah, we'd have to vote
Yeah,
to change the.
Two-thirds vote for it tonight. But how much are we talking about, Bill? Is there a decision, 2 or 3 siphons plus an amount, right?
Well, right now, the maximum, and again, estimated amount.
Right.
With, prorating with an inflation factor, and these other ones would be, I think we had it as, .94 million on the, so 940,000.
And that's for 3 siphons.
That would be with 3 siphons.
And if it's 2 siphons, it's 890,000.
Correct. And if the bids come in low, and that would be, you could
Yeah,
put
well-
that as a maximum, or whatever on that, and then if the bids came in lower, because we will separate the portion, so if it did come lower, because there is some contingency in these figures. Not many, but not much, but some.
In the interest of time, do we want to?
I'd go for it. I'm inclined to put in the third siphon. Yeah, just, Bill, you mentioned a litany of issues which would occur in the event of failure of the siphons, including paving. Ballpark, what are we talking about? If you were to put a dollar amount on all those things you mentioned, and there were at least half a dozen of them.
Well, just looking at some costs here, to demobilize and do a new bypass system is $35,000. It's $50,000 a month for the bypass sewer flow. Obviously, you'd have to excavate, dig up the road and do that area. You'd have to pay for maintenance, protection of traffic. When you're done, you have to put all the stuff back, compact it, and you'd have to then repave that section of the road. So, I mean, off the top of my head, you're probably looking at well over anywhere from, just real quick, would be $100,000 to $300,000. I mean, it's just a, pulling a number out, but
Okay,
it would be a significant cost.
right, so,
We don't have to decide on 2 or 3 tonight, because they could bid it with 2 and then have an add alternate.
yeah, I'm just looking for a number to make me feel better. I mean,
Sure.
because this is, if their failure were to occur and we look back on this and say, why didn't we do this, and that's what I don't want to, I just, something else to hang my hat on from a dollar standpoint that says, this is the right decision, and I think it is.
I was looking for Ron's reaction. It looks like he may have fallen down. Chris?
But, we're discussing it, and it sounds like we are gonna have to increase the amount of it. So are we gonna act on it tonight or not? Are we gonna push it back?
We'd have to. Feels as though we have the information and the energy to act on it tonight. We just have to have a modification to the agenda item.
Right.
Which would be to modify old business item C, discussion on the Turning Bridge siphons, to a, here consider an act, you wrote it down already.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve up to $940,000 to replace 2 siphons and add a
Third side.
third siphon.
That's that number.
The add alternate, 940. Is there a, second to that? Second from Nancy, all in favor?
Aye.
Ron's down.
That's the motion to add, that's the motion
to
add it to the agenda.
Yeah, okay, so we now have a
Now you
proper
have-
agenda item
right.
in front of us
Right.
to act on $940,000.
So now you need the motion
Yeah.
put on the table.
Yeah,
So wait,
motion.
just to clarify, we're approving up to, but we're not agreeing to the 3rd siphon now, right?
No, we are.
No, it's not all.
As an add alternate, that we can then choose later not to, especially if it comes in
Third
at
siphon is an add-on.
100,000 or something. Oh.
If I may, I think you could do that because the third siphon, the tie gate and the culverts and stuff,
Right.
it doesn't, I mean, that's why, for here,
Right.
if you voted it down, it didn't bother me any, because the other parts, of the project,
Right.
it wasn't affected,
Yeah.
it's so.
My stance is it's a no-brainer for the first 2, but I'm not sold on the 3rd. I mean, the siphon's been, right, I just wanted to clarify.
Mhm.
Huh?
So what's the motion?
Sorry, but
Can you read the motion?
So can you read that
Oh,
again?
Which one?
can you make a motion then?
Yeah, now you need a motion, now you need a new motion.
Yeah.
So now I'm confused.
I just want, as long as it's an add alternate, I'm good.
Is this, we're approving up to $940,000, but
Okay.
but we're approving the full thing, but the
3rd
third
siphon's
is
an
an
add alternate.
add alternate.
Good, I'm good.
So we're bidding out 2 with an add alt for
Right.
3, but we're approving we're approving the budget up to 30.
Up to $940,000.
Right. That's what you,
Well, that's what we have,
Okay,
yep.
that's
And
a
then that
motion.
way, you don't have to
You
go
want me to
back.
say it, or
Is there- yeah, please.
okay,
Yeah.
so a motion,
Sheila
I'd like
will
to.
thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve up to $940,000 to replace 2 siphons and potentially add a alternate 3rd siphon at Turney Creek.
second.
Second from Nancy, all in favor?
Discussion?
But,
No discussion?
I think we've discussed it.
So we're good.
Sorry, I enough for that.
Oh, sure, I'll be back, I think, I got a couple of others.
We need to call 911 or?
Help, like falling, I can't get up.
Okay, Christine, thank you very much for staying with us.
We didn't. We didn't.
What?
We just did. What was the vote?
Unanimous.
Oh, no, sir.
Oh,
No, sir, you didn't call for a negative. You just
I said all in favor, okay, so you're obviously opposed.
opposed.
Okay, very well then. Sheila, that's all in favor, Joe DiVanzo opposed.
Any abstentions?
Except for Ron and.
Well, Ron.
Ron.
Ron is abstaining.
Unclear what?
He's got to abstain.
He's a no vote, I
He's
guess.
to be determined.
I guess, no, in all seriousness,
Yeah.
I think that's, Ron abstains.
Yeah.
A non-vote.
Okay, H is Zoom. So next in front of us is to discuss next steps for the Metro sewer line replacement. Is that,
Yeah.
God bless you. Thank you.
Well, the East Trunk Wetlands project went out to bid, at the end of May, and we received one bid at the end of June. That was way over budget. It was about $7.4 million for one bidder. It was a landscaping and paving company. So the questions of its qualifications. So we rejected that bid, and then we had a meeting with the designers the following week, and it was, well, engineering, purchasing, WPCA, and DPW director. And it was at that point, it was indicated that maybe this work was more specialized, that we should reach out to marine contractors, because the majority of the work is dewatering and shoring and piling. So with purchasing's permission, we were able to do outreach. Purchasing and the engineers, D&B engineers, reached out to several marine contractors in the tri-state area. I think about 8 contractors were reached out to and invited to come and bid when the contract was re-released. So the contract went out for re-advertisement on July 3rd. And we had a site tour on July 12th, and we had 2 marine contractors did show up for the site tour.
Right.
Site tour is not mandatory, so it doesn't mean that they won't bid. Several of them said that they were interested in the project. The bids are due on August 9th, and we did get a larger number of questions in the last 2 days. So that was hopeful, because it shows that they're going through the drawings and they do have questions. The budget might be a little bit of a concern, because we did tell them the range was between 3 and 5 million, and they laughed at me. So, so we'll say, we'll see what the bids come in on August 9th, and then we'll determine from there what we have to do.
I mean, let me get one question then, Joe. Just the dewatering aspect of that, what do you think that is?
It's the majority of the project. It's 300 feet of pipe, and it's the simplest part of the project. It's the dewatering, the shoring, the sheeting, not the sheeting, but the micro piling, the soldier piles that have to be put in.
And then we're gonna.
You're not getting your average utility, or like Burns Construction, or, you know, any of those contractors that did like Carriage Drive, like they just laid the pipe. They're not used to doing all this majority of this other work.
Because so much volume's coming through that pipe, which we're gonna get again at Ash Creek. That's the same pipe, right?
Well, yes.
That's my question. I want to clarify something. Are you referring to the Ash Creek pipe here?
No.
Or are you referring to the Metro pipe?
The wetlands part. Yeah,
The wetlands, see, that's the Ash Creek pipe, isn't it?
No, that's the wetland. Well, it's the first portion of it. It's from Metro Center. It's the
To-
300 feet
to
from the
Ash
Metro
Creek.
Center.
To Ash Creek?
Yes,
Okay,
and then
thank you.
East Trunk lower replacement, I think we're calling that phase 2, now, are we?
Phase 2, and that goes to the Turkey Creek section.
Yes, there's 3 portions.
Both of them are right
Yeah.
next to Ash Creek, they don't cross.
Just East Trunk is the middle after there.
They're all East Trunk, but yeah, we're calling East Trunk wetlands is the 300 feet that is in the wetlands area. That's we're trying to bid right now, and then there's a second portion which goes from Kennard Street right there where it goes onto dry land, and then there's about over 2,000 linear feet of piping that would be the phase 2 portion of the East Trunk.
Christine, how much did we approve for that?
I think we have 5.5 million for
Thank you.
budget,
For what, the
wetlands portion alone, that 300 linear feet.
Construction part,
Construction
and
portion.
750 for inspection.
Yeah.
That's the 260.
Is there any issue if those new apartments go up before this gets done? Is there any?
Oh, I can't speak on that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't hook up, no capacity. That's why we're doing it.
That could be an issue.
Yeah, big one. Right, Mark?
Well, for the first building, no, I don't think there's gonna be an issue
bad based on your report, but
Yes.
ultimately, that's why we're doing the project.
This is a 36-inch pipe that's existing,
36 goes into the 30.
to a 30.
Right.
Right.
33.
So,
To a
33 to a,
30.
right.
Yeah.
So there's enough capacity there, isn't there? For the initial phase of those 5
Right.
buildings?
Yeah,
Okay. There's enough.
based on the report.
Yeah. Yeah.
Active.
So we have, right.
Christine, let me ask you, given the expense of the dewatering that we're learning here, how expensive that's going to be, when we get further down the road on Ash Creek, it's the same volume of dewatering, less distance, but same volume. Do you think our numbers are good for the dewatering on that project?
But from my understanding, the second portion, the second phase is 50% of the project, I believe, is dewatering. Do you recall that, Bill?
Now, is this for the east trunk or the
Phase two. The question is really relative to both.
The pipe is very deep and the groundwater is very high in that area, so there is a lot of dewatering involved. My understanding was about 50% of the cost for a lot of stuff.
That and the steel sheathing together was 50%. For the dewatering, the one bit of good news, if I recall, is that the east trunk line, the east trunk line right now follows the river. Well, the new proposal is gonna be in the roadway, so, we can do shorter distances, we don't have to deal with the cap, we don't have to deal with, some of the other, situations. So the bypass, you know, we could let the wastewater go the way it's going now and do almost 95% of the projects without worrying about a bypass. So the dewatering, and again, it varies on the water level. I think there was one where it's, like 12-foot depth to rock, so there'll be some dewatering necessary there. And then others, I think it was just rock we had to worry about, not dewatering, so. Christine's right, I think it was a combination of the steel sheathing and the watering was about 50%.
It's the second phase.
Yeah.
I think going out to the marine contractors was brilliant. It was good.
That was suggested by the, design engineers.
We were a little disappointed that they didn't suggest that before we released it, but that's another story.
Ask twice. Any other comments and questions before we go to Bronson? Okay, let's, Christine, thanks for staying with us.
Thank you.
Oh, if I may though, just, Christine, I was supposed to get you some information. We just got, I think 2 days ago, and then even today, D&B, for doing the design services during construction for the wetlands.
Yeah.
And, so on that one, we're getting that. We still have to get something from Lorero, so we'll put that package together.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can vote on that, either soon or at the next meeting. And we also got a proposal literally this morning or just before noon from Cardinal. And, their proposal to upgrade the plans was approximately, I'm going by, I think I might have it here. Yeah, it was a total of 97,000. We had figured 44,000. Well, the 44,000 was pretty much to update the plans. They put in another 20,000 if we wanted to do additional borings and testing. And then I think there was another like 20,000 or so for them to do their design services during the construction of the project, because most likely we won't hire the same company doing the design as the inspection, you know, so.
Gotcha.
We have a third-party inspector.
Yeah.
So we'll put it all together for you. I just wanted to give you the update on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Review the status of 1899 Bronson Road connection. That you again, Mark?
You started.
All right.
Hey, Mark.
Wow.
Elizabeth Bessemer has had her hand up.
I think it's an old.
It's an old.
Hey, Ron Drew's back. He's up.
Hey.
Hey, Ron.
Real quick on 1899, they finally got their second half-inch rain event this week. They're gonna be pulling their meters, so then it's on them to come up with their figures and whatnot, so that's all there is on that.
Okay. Good. We move on to the update on current projects, and
Moving right along.
we're getting close. Past my bedtime. The, pump stations, do we do these one by one, or is there a consolidation
Nope,
opportunity?
we can consolidate, we'll make it quick.
Yay.
So as you know, in order to qualify for possible future funding, with Connecticut Deep, we issued a quality-based selection for consultants
Yeah.
for all 7 of the pump stations. We received 6 firms responded, and we shortlisted them to 3 firms, which actually presented yesterday. And so the committee has voted on it, and will pick the selected, consultant. So I don't have that name right now. And we'll submit to them, we'll ask them for a cost proposal once we define exactly the scope that we want to approach for this project. So if we want to do, designs for all 7 at once, if we want to do just the first 3, the primary, Fairfield Beach, South Pine Creek, and Center Street. If we want to just focus on one, like Fairfield Beach, that's something that we have to decide, how we want to approach that project.
Gotcha, and who's on the committee?
It was myself, it was John Bodie, it was Bill Hurley, and Mega Jane from engineering.
Okay.
And purchasing.
And purchasing, yeah.
Sir?
Christine, will any of them have the same design?
That's possible, that's where there's benefit in having the one consultant look at all 7, and there's potential to possibly bundle like designs or do the similar design for several of them, because they have the same, components, and then potentially do construction bundled. That's an option that we have with them.
And then from a maintenance point of view, we'd have similar equipment to, we have one set of equipment.
We do have that at our
We
pump
have it
station.
now.
I mean, we
Yeah,
try to
we
have
have
the
it
same.
now, that's why I'm asking, going in the future, are we planning?
Oh, no, that would be the
what we're trying to
plan,
do.
was that we have all of our equipment be the same.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How are we handling these from a capital construction budget standpoint?
Yes, we have, in our water town, in our town, it's over 4 or 5 years.
Right, no, I know, but if we staggered them on construction, then I wouldn't necessarily want to have all 3 designs done by like the beginning or middle of next year, and then have 2 of those designs sit on the shelf for 2 years, and all of a sudden.
Okay, well, right now, what we had, from capital point of view, not necessarily operational point of view, we had to put them in the waterfall over a period of time. So the 7 of them are in the waterfall over the next 5 years.
Right.
Fairfield Beach was first, Pine Creek was second, Center Street was third, et cetera, et cetera.
Year after year.
The way they were set up, but the money shouldn't drive the efficiency of the design, if that's what you're asking. We could play around.
Right, but we should be efficient on both design and construction, though, otherwise you're losing a lot of that.
The money shouldn't drive that. We could, I'll say it in front of Jared, we could probably move the capital around to take advantage of what you're.
If we bundled like 2 or 3 pump stations, we could get better pricing probably on the construction side, which is way more expensive than the design side.
Again, the waterfall should not drive us. The engineering and the cost should.
Yep.
Can I just ask, and maybe this is rhetorical, or just to kind of put in the hopper for Mike's audit, given that what we've outlined earlier in terms of the WPCA's oversight, is this an area of operations where the committee should include somebody, and I'm not saying yes or no, but something to think about, should include somebody from the WPCA if we are gonna have that kind of oversight? I don't know the answer, I'm just suggesting.
For what?
In terms of, the committee that you're mentioning, does it make sense in terms of how we function?
Reviewing proposals.
In terms of reviewing, so that we're not only, it's like it gets here and then we're asking about the recipe after it's already been baked, in a way. We obviously rely on the experts, but.
If you went to Jim Baldwin's email, it would say that Bucky's team, it's his town infrastructure.
So but that's my point, is like, I think some of this is worth spelling out and clarifying, because this is where it gets murky to me, but I'm just pointing something out.
Does engineering report to Bucky? Mm-hmm. Okay, so there you have it. So you got Okay. That's the way it reads.
Right.
Thank you, Christine. What about the East Trunk Wetlands replacement?
We just discussed that in old business. As well as.
phase 1. And as well as the phase 1.
Well, but yeah, phase 1 is technically phase 2, I guess, is how.
Oh, geez.
The nomenclature's a little, we have to work on it. It's the wetlands and then what we're calling phase two, or just the east trunk replacement. A relocation, right?
In engineering, we're labeling, we're labeling them phase one, phase two, phase three. Phase one is the wetland crossing, phase two is the east trunk, and phase three is Turning Creek.
So it goes right in a row.
Right in row.
Okay.
I got that.
So I was getting confused, I know Joe got confused.
I got confused, yes.
So Megan Jane decided, she took it on herself to just label them that way, and that's where we are in engineering. You can call them whatever you want.
All right.
There is a phase four though, isn't that the king?
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's gonna be zero, that's
So
gonna be.
just say it again out loud and just, sorry, which one is
One is
Wetlands.
wetlands?
Two is the
East trunk.
Road of Vinnie.
Then, but there's, we're relocating.
Right, and then, right,
No, that was a long time ago.
but they're like the new. Right.
Okay. Holy cow, we're getting close.
It could have been so much.
Were there any sewer bypasses?
None.
None.
Nice job.
Adjourn.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Matt?
I'll second that.
Ron Drew. Second by Ron, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.